Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Sunday, the 12th of February, 2023. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
We're back.
And Robert Kemp.
We're back after me and Dan's week-long break and Rob's very not week-long break.
Very not breaking.
Parenting is not a holiday. Oh my God. Like, everyone, you kind of get the gist, right? When people say, like, it's going to be a bit on the tough side, right? Like,
Yeah.
they undersell it.
No, of course they do.
It's way harder. Like, it's way more sleep. I mean, they say, like, oh, you're going to get a bit of sleep deprivation and something like that, you know, Like, it's, nah, dog. it's rough. It's rough.
Is it specifically the sleep thing? That's the main thing.
I mean, kinda, yeah. We got a heads up that day 3 is probably the worst day because they start being slightly less calm. No, they're not that calm at first anyway, but like they become slightly less calm, and the sleep schedule starts going a bit weird. And like basically, that was the first night where we had like zero sleep, like at night,
Right?
Like for almost 12 to 12 kind of deal. There was just nothing happening because it was constant, relentless, if you will.
Right.
Um,
But how does it work? But newborn babies need to sleep, right?
They do, yeah, but
not more than we do.
Their schedule isn't as even as, or at least ours isn't as even as the articles suggest. Like, it's like, oh yeah, you should probably make sure you're trying to feed every 3 hours if you're breastfeeding, and then like and then they'll sleep in between, and that's when you should sleep. And so in my head, I'm thinking like, it's like, oh cool, that gives us feeds can be quite long, so that gives us probably a good 2-hour window. Like whenever these things happen, and it's like, no, it's
napping.
It's not that consistent. No, at night it's almost like feed, sleep. That sleep is about somewhere between 1 and 10 minutes, and then you're back on it again. And like obviously it's harder for Gnome because she's doing the feeding as naturally as possible. And so she's handless most of the time, and it's like, well, what do we do? Well, we put the telly on, I guess, and
I guess,
and do some stuff there, and watch a whole bunch of rubbish, just and try and stay awake. That's the other thing. It's so difficult. Also, he doesn't like his crib at night. So you like even when he's sleeping, like one of us is generally holding him, and like. So that means you also have to stay awake and hope that the other half can sleep a bit. I need more things I can do with one hand on my phone whilst holding a baby, so I stay awake.
Yeah, one-handed.
You know what I mean? Because I've been resorting to playing Spider Solitaire of all things because it's
Mouse driven.
Well, yeah, and it's also easy.
Phone, right.
It's also easy to just one thumb. I suppose I didn't think about it, Edge. I could actually just sit in here and do something with a mouse hand.
Yeah, you could theoretically.
Yeah, I didn't think that through.
Not the most comfortable position.
No, I guess not.
To sit against the desk holding a baby.
You wouldn't want to go like, oh, I need to be closer, and then accidentally wedge yourself into the desk, crushing a small child in your powerful thighs. But
can you play Civilization entirely with a mouse?
Yeah, you probably could.
Absorbing
the modern ones, anyway.
Yeah, that could be interesting. He's not as keen on me as he is Gnome, though, so that's also a problem.
Well,
naturally.
I think that's natural, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, takes a little while for them to have proper recognition and proper bonding. So
yeah, quite a while.
Yeah. Well, I suppose you're actually more you Zach might be more exposed to it than me, thanks to the plague child.
Well, sure, but I like it's not like I was constantly exposed to it. It's like once a week, and that's not really enough to like. Perceive change. Well, I guess it sort of makes it easier to perceive changes in theory, but I'm not paying as much attention.
And if like, well, and also it's like it's misleading, right? Because I guess we've had visitors like family have obviously come around and said hello,
and it's totally fine.
Utterly,
yeah,
completely and utterly beautifully behaved because they've come during the day when he sleeps the most.
Yeah, of course.
So they've been able, like those dad how it held him for ages, and he was like utterly like quiet and amazing, and then
angelic.
Yeah,
And then the moment they disappear, it's like, oh,
it's like numb, isn't it? I guess it's like you don't know, man. You weren't there.
you were there. So, except a lot of people were.
Although, I mean, they were there in their own personal there, I suppose.
Yeah.
They must have all been through it at some point, but there's some sort of collective forgetting going on that they then just don't tell you the worst of it. Although, in fairness, that's not strictly true. We have had a couple of mums talk to us and be like, yeah, no, it's, yeah. And it's like, well, why didn't you say that before?
What I don't get is like how they apparently vary. Like you'd think babies would be roughly the same experience. Apparently they're quite different.
Yeah,
some of them are a total dream, and some of them are an absolute nightmare.
You see, I knew this was going to happen because I've heard too many stories of recent parents being like, oh yeah, it's been fine. They've all told me, yeah, it's been fine. He slept through the night like really quickly, and it's been great. And then I'm like.
Well, I mean,
statistically speaking, this means we're going to have the nightmare, right? Because...
Well, also, it's literally only been a week so far.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
this doesn't necessarily set a precedent.
I mean, it's probably still too fresh in my mind that we haven't got to that sleep-deprived forgetting state where it's
that's probably why they don't remember it literally.
Yeah,
because their brains didn't function during that period.
Yeah. That is probably true. I'm gonna forget all of She-Hulk by the time this is over.
I mean, I already forgot it. I haven't even got doing that. Something about twerking.
We haven't dared watch Borgen. I thought about it, but it's like that's
that will put you to sleep.
Yeah. Well, Borgen's actually really interesting.
Well, it is, but it's not like
it's engaging.
Sure, but it's not like action or anything.
No, it's not. Action.
Well, most of the time.
But then, equally, I wouldn't go and watch Transformers or something like that because that's just
too much action.
That's the wrong side of action, right?
Too many explosions.
It's mind numbing.
Expose them to explosions early on.
Oh yeah,
prepare them for the video games of the future.
One of the first things I sat within watching was about 2 hours worth of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So.
I still find it bizarre that I managed to get you and Naomi to watch a show about Danish politics. How did I even get that?
You were just here, right? And we just randomly. It was just on BBC 4
was it just
while we were.
Because I'd definitely seen it before.
Oh,
so
okay.
I remember recommending it, but I'm still, it must have just been on because otherwise, there's no way I'd be like, hey guys, check out the Danish West Wing, and you'd be like,
I think honestly we got drawn in by the fact that we saw the title sequence, right, and it just said half Dan E, and then because half Dan.
I know now what that means. It means it's a Viking name, but it means half Danish, half Dan.
Half Dan, okay.
Yeah, so I saw the other day that there's some graffiti in the Hagia Sophia. How do you pronounce that in Istanbul?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Which you may know if you played Civilization. As one of the wonders. I can't remember what benefit that one gives you. Anyway, there's some graffiti there from a Viking who managed to make it all the way to Constantinople, and it's like half Dan was here.
You know what I could play, thinking about it, and you mentioned Civ again, it's I could try, play 2 Point Campus might be a pretty good...
Yeah.
One-handed baby game.
One-handed, yeah.
The only problem is 2 Point Campus has stopped working on this PC. So,
okay.
So it just doesn't launch anymore, so...
That's weird.
To hell with that. It knew. There's no babies in, those games, are there? They don't really... everyone is just a generic middle.
Yeah, I guess so. Even at the explicitly school one, they're still all the same.
Everyone's the same. Yeah,
that's quite common in games where children don't exist, right? I mean, obviously in Grand Theft Auto, famously they don't exist, but
so you can't accidentally murder them all the time.
Yeah, exactly. But that's true in a lot of games as well.
This mysterious some-aged people, some-aged.
So in Grand Theft Auto 5, you have 5. You have
of kids, aren't they? Because they've got teens.
That's the thing. You have your 16-year-old son or whatever, but are there any other teenagers in the world apart from him?
Question. I mean, don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Are there? There's the odd baby in Red Dead. It's not GTA, but is there the odd?
Are there?
Is there in the camp or something? Or No. I
Oh
can't
yeah,
remember.
there's the kid. There's the kid of is that the only kid in the whole world? Is Jack? You know who you?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be it. That might be it. The only child in all of America.
In all of America, and he has to survive because he ends up a playable character at the end of the first game. Spoilers.
He's got to get rescued by Clive Owen at some point because he's the only child in America. That's how that works, right?
That's how it works. I'd watch that Western.
Well, that's the plot of Children of Men, isn't it? Like,
Yes. Well, kind of. I guess it's not. It's not even been born yet in that film. So.
oh, true. Yeah.
I've only seen that once, and I didn't like it as much as I'd hoped. I need to give it another try.
I've only watched it once. I had it on HD DVD of all things.
Yeah.
I've watched it the once, and I really enjoyed it. Actually,
Is that Alfonso Cuarón? That film? Who directed that?
I don't know. No, you're on your own there.
Googling.
Googling.
Probably here.
Googling.
Yeah, it is Alfonso Cuarón. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I enjoyed that. That was good. Don't see much Clive Owen these days.
No, what's he up to? Is he retired?
How much trouble is he currently in? That's the actual question.
Yeah.
Why has he been?
No, I'm
cancelled?
not saying that he is. I'm just saying that's like if you haven't seen someone for a while in a Hollywood context, it's like I wonder why.
Standard cancelled something in some way, potentially.
It's true. He's not doing any films or anything.
Shoot him up, the last thing he did.
He was in Curb Your Enthusiasm in 2020, but that's it. He was in Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets.
Oh, yes.
Remember.
Yeah, he totally was.
Well, that was dumb.
I thought they were perhaps going to do more of those, but
yeah, well, I think that must have bombed, right? Surely.
Yeah. I don't know. But also, I don't know that Luc Besson does sequels generally.
That's true.
Not really his thing.
Anywho,
yeah, that's what's going on.
Wave of baby random. Yeah,
definite wave of baby, not wave of babies.
Yeah,
wave of baby. At least that's a relief. Who was it that was telling you that older mothers are more likely to have twins or something?
Surprise twins.
So you've got away with that one.
I don't know if there's so much of a thing about surprise twins these days. You know.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can find out
yeah.
quite easily.
You know. But and there is a bit of a twin streak on Gnome's side of the family. So
given that she's a twin,
yeah, and there's other twins in the family. It's like it's fairly common on Gnome's side, so we dodged it. Thankfully, one is enough. One is work.
But how much percentage more work is two though? Like it's not 100% more work.
I know it's not 100% more work.
It depends if they're synced.
Well, yeah, that's true.
If everything is synced up, then that would be a lot easier. But then maybe it's like naturally synced because if one goes, the other one probably picks up.
They just wake each other up all the time.
Yeah. So it's probably more. It's probably more work, but maybe not 100%.
But I mean, you won't be able to play one-handed game with two babies.
No, that's true.
No-handed games.
And they really would have to get used to. You'd have no choice. You'd have to somehow make the perfect crib environment. Like just sever my arms and make a crib out of it. I don't know.
Has your crib got have you got a little motor on it to make it swing or whatever?
No, well, we're using a Moses basket type thing at the moment, which is on rockers. So it's
right.
Pretty much any movement the Babs makes will send it jiggling a little bit. But we can just. It's got like these little runners underneath, so you can actually just rest your foot on it and do it that way. So it's
do it that way, right?
So yeah, we've been doing that. No automatic rockers. I'm not actually convinced it makes a huge difference at the moment. Anyway, like
the rocking, yeah. Maybe. I remember that Vanessa had some kind of auto jiggler thingy on the pram, which I was impressed by. Apparently, it's a common thing. It's like in the shape of a rocket, but it's an auto jiggler.
I really hope that's the brand name.
Auto jiggler. Yeah.
Robco is not going to.
Yeah, I was about. I literally thought that joke, and I was like, I'm not going to say that one.
No. We're not getting into the infant market.
No, it's not your market.
Oh boy, you have to go back quite a few podcast episodes to understand the Robco.
Not that many, though.
Yeah.
Some, but not a ton.
Righto, I'm sure there'll be plenty of baby random.
Oh, will there?
We need something alliterative, like
baby
kitchen
backlash.
bitch into a house grouse. Baby backlash. Okay, we'll have that section coming every other week.
I mean, I've got an opening statement for it. I've already been pissed on.
Well, obviously.
Well, I mean, naturally.
But yeah, but like proper comedy fountain style. It's more frequent than I expected, to be honest. I thought that would just be like a couple of times, but yeah, no. If you're in the middle of a nappy change, you're at risk, like pretty much guaranteed.
Right, it happens. Okay,
there you go. Truth.
Remember that early episode of the thick of it, where the woman's being a real pain, and it's like, oh, I had to clean up my own mother's piss, like it's just a nightmare or whatever. And at the end, the politician's like, it's just piss. I mean, I've got children. Like, it's just cleaning up my children's piss all the time. It's perfectly normal.
I mean, it is a god. At this point, at least, nothing really smells that bad. So
that's surely not going to last.
No,
that'll change.
Yeah, I bet it won't. But I bet it won't last. But at the moment, that's. I'm so thankful for that. It makes it so much easier.
I mean, unfortunately for me, I'll be the one to tell you that probably because you won't notice. After a while. I mean, you'll notice in the immediate.
You reckon I'll go nose blind?
Yeah, but you won't notice if it fills the house over time.
Oh, that's true. That is true.
It's okay. But then summer is coming. You can open some windows.
But I'm usually pretty sensitive to
yes,
that, right?
You are, actually.
So, cat bombs were normally pretty obvious.
Well, cat poop is a special kind of thing.
Special kind of poop. Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see how well my queasiness copes. That's the other thing. I'm pretty queasy around bad smells. I'm pretty queasy around a lot of things these days. But
definitely not helpful.
No, if you haven't slept at all, that probably doesn't help.
I don't know maybe it does because it's just not your primary concern.
Yeah, maybe.
News!
We got some news to talk about.
3 weeks of news.
Yeah, we got loads of news.
It was a lot of, and then suddenly all the news happened also.
It's news time, isn't it?
Yeah. So some of this isn't going to have aged very well. Most of it you're going to have heard already. So I think we can crack on through a lot of the early stuff pretty quickly.
Yeah.
That there GoldenEye 007 finally came out.
Just about.
It was sort of out. I was expecting it to be part of both Microsoft and Nintendo's things, but it wasn't mentioned in either of them.
Well, they'd already done that.
Well, yeah, it sort of predated them a little bit. Well, no, actually, the developer direct was, I think, subtly before GoldenEye.
Well, I meant when they first announced it was coming back, they did it in both of their things at that time.
Yeah, were they in an event or did they just tweet it? I think they just tweeted.
No, I think they were in the video presentations just after.
Well, maybe Ninty did. Yeah, I don't know if Microsoft did.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't in Microsoft's one. But it definitely was in Nintendo's one, because they did the GoldenEye pan the thing across the screen shot.
Sure.
As you do.
So it's really interesting, these GoldenEye releases, because they are different, and we knew they were going to be different, right? So the Switch version gets online play through Nintendo Switch Online.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of don't expect matchmaking or anything like that. I think it's it allows you to do it with friends via the sort of remote play stuff that the Switch Online thing has. So you can basically say, "Oh, invite my friends to a game" or something, and it will stream to them and stream their controllers. But it's like Steam Play or whatever that thing is called,
right? Steam
Remote Play. I believe that's how it works. Anyway, I've not got the Switch version because the Xbox version came out on Game Pass. So I've been toying with that, and that gets the 4K treatment basically. So it's running at 4K, and its claim to fame is that they've modernized the controls, so you can actually play it with proper left stick movement, right stick aiming, and you can't on the Switch. The Switch has to use N64 like move and look with the C buttons and things like that, which is apparently is like a real pain. Like, 'cause it doesn't map very well.
Well, yeah, because the shape of the controller is so different.
Yeah. To the point where people have been coming up with solutions where, like, you can use if you have two pairs of Joy-Cons, you can like have them both hook up to the console at once, and then you can use the control modifiers somewhere in the systems menu to make it so like one of the controllers acts like the C buttons Anyway, you can remap it in some weird ass way so you can actually have the sticks, but the sticks will work digitally rather than analogically. It's a weird situation to be in. Also, people don't like that these remakes aren't. They're not remakes, but the remasters aren't perfect either. So the 4K one has the problems where it shows up the N64's like vertex mapping and stuff like that. So there are holes in geometry here and there.
Yeah.
The emulation's doesn't account for that.
Because you'd never tell on old 220 by 240 res.
In the original resolution, it wouldn't have been an issue. But ramp everything up, you start to see the breaks in the floors and things where the math doesn't quite line up. These are just emulations ultimately. These aren't like full on ports, by the way. Both of these are emulation jobs.
What I wonder is how did we or anyone actually manage to play the 4-player like split screen with the resolution and frame rate that low? It's like, what? How could you even tell what the frick was going on?
I don't think you could, and that was kind of half that, because like I remember like when you were playing like landmine games and stuff like that.
So that was intentionally.
Yeah, the landmines are so tiny you can't see where any of them are, and and you can't see anyone throwing them. And look, the same thing with the hand grenades, right? Because you could put the hand grenades on, but you could never see them until they exploded. Yeah, it was a weird time. It was only really like GoldenEye that like truly suffered from that. Other games like worked around it and like did other things to make things visible and stuff like that. But GoldenEye, they just didn't give a monkeys. It's just
no.
And yeah, I guess at the time, the novelty of it all was definitely a thing, right? It hadn't really been. I don't know that style of multiplayer had really been achieved on a console before in an FPS.
No.
So I think things like maybe Quake 2 on the PlayStation had done some split screen stuff before, but probably not in 4-player.
When was like the Turok? Was that after?
Turok. I don't know that Turok had a 4-player split, especially not Turok 1. They might have been getting there with Turok 2, which probably was after GoldenEye.
After, yeah.
And then obviously they lent into it with Rage Wars when Rage Wars came out and just like we're just doing a multiplayer game.
Yeah, that was later. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is wild if you think about it, but like back then someone just decided to make a multiplayer only or deathmatch focused game. Like back then,
someone had to get there first, right? It's like, what was the first Unreal Tournament?
I mean, it would have been around the time,
doesn't it?
UT would have been out for sure.
Yeah, UT's the one, isn't it?
Yeah,
they would like sod it. Deathmatch is the fun part, so we'll just make a deathmatch game. Yeah. Won't even bother with a story.
Nope, pretty much. Just avoid it altogether.
And now arena shooters don't really exist.
Yeah.
Well, different kind of arena.
Unless you count
Battle Royale.
Battle Royale is the equivalent, yeah.
It's the nearest we have to an arena shooter now. I mean, they still exist. Quake is still about, but like Quake Champions somehow is still live. In an era of everything being cancelled, like Rumbleverse, like Quake Champions is still running.
Really?
One of the other Quake things got cancelled, though, didn't it?
I think the original Quake Live is now down.
Yeah.
Quake Live was pretty cool. Well, Quake Live was weird, right? Because it actually just installed Quake 3 to the machine, but as a plug-in to your browser.
To your browser,
and it would just launch the game through the website. It was weird. It's amazing it
cool
worked
idea.
at all. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Was it WebGL and...
No. It was just... It predated all of that, so it's it was just straight up Quake 3.
Interesting.
Just rewrapped.
What happened to? I never figured out what happened to that Unreal Tournament kind of open source thing.
I mean, it's dead now.
Yeah, but why? Well, why didn't the community just keep developing it? I guess.
I think they were, but the community wasn't massive. That was sort of the problem. And it's like Epic never really pushed its existence.
No,
they didn't.
So to the mainstream, it's totally unknown. And it was, I guess, the intent was always just to try and. I wonder if it was just used as a sort of Unreal testbed, like where the community was like just working on UT, because it was mainly UT4, right? Unreal Engine 4, not Unreal 5. So we haven't really got an Unreal 5 equivalent.
Not yet. Yeah.
Like that. But all the Unreal 5 tools are out and anyone can mess with them. But there's no singular project that everyone.
No.
I guess it just didn't. It wasn't marketed and it didn't take off of its own accord, so they didn't care.
Anyway,
GoldenEye.
GoldenEye.
That came out. I've been playing it a little bit. It's fine. I sort of forgot how jank it was.
Somehow.
Yeah. Well, it's just the mission structure. The mission structure is so like incomprehensible at times. It's like, well, you got to do this thing, and it doesn't really like. It was proper briefings or anything. Like you had to try and read that document, and which would say do a thing. You wouldn't really know how to do that thing.
No.
Like Perfect Dark ended up doing a way better job, but was still pretty obscure at times of that sort of information. I
feel like Half-Life, obviously it's different because it doesn't have objectives and stuff, but I felt it really was like a masterclass in linear, first-person level design, basically, and everything after that was kind of very influenced, but GoldenEye predated it, so it didn't have them.
Well, the trouble with GoldenEye is it's trying to be the film, but like the film doesn't have the rest of the levels, basically. The film has like 2 scenes in this level, and then you've got to make up all this rest of this level that joins them up.
They make connecting bits to try and make it make sense a bit. I mean, it's kind of amazing that they did actually almost follow the film beat for beat, but with some extra.
Yeah, impressive. Yeah.
And it somewhat flows. Anyway, that's GoldenEye. It's about. It happened. It's amazing that it happened at all. Right. So, Developer Direct, Microsoft's first, the first big event of the year, I suppose, for many of the major publishers. They sort of dialed in on 6 projects was the idea of this. It's like it's not a big showcase. We're going to do a deep dive on 6 things. One of them being Elder Scrolls Online. That conveniently they then said it's like, oh, we're not actually going to go that deep on this. We're going to say a few things, and then we're going to have a separate event for ESO. So Woo bloke,
Woo lady,
the Woo crowd can have their own little thing. I mean, my note here just says ESO is still a thing.
Yeah, like it still is somehow.
It must be quietly quite big, right?
I mean, just this morning I was watching a video about like why you should move from ESO to Guild Wars 2.
Oh, really?
And it sounds like ESO has like a shit ton of content, but then that's one of those things where it's just like it's only ever going to become increasingly impossible to get into.
Well, apparently, because that was one of the things they mentioned in this, right? It's like now, I think if you're like all of the there's some level at which, like, when you get into it, you have access to everything now, up to a certain point. Like the latest expansions, I think, are still locked behind paywalls of some description. But most of the old stuff is now available, and they've also engineered it in a way that you don't have to have. There's no like core progression through them. You can sort of tackle them in any order that you fancy.
Right.
Be like, oh, this one's good, do this one, that kind of thing. Or this area is good, go do this. And I don't know how they're doing that, whether they gate them to their own progressions within each expansion or something like that. So there's some side quest level or something alongside your main character level. I don't know. Anyway, they're sort of trying to solve that problem and keep everything in the game rather than doing the Destiny thing, which is to take content out.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
The video I was watching this morning, I guess I hadn't really seen that much footage of ESO, but like the guy was talking about, before I played ESO, I played Skyrim. So when they changed the UI of ESO to match Skyrim, I was totally used to it, and I was like, oh god, the Skyrim UI, no! Like as soon as I saw it, it was like, oh no, can't possibly imagine having to manage an MMO in that UI. Vertical lists of everything.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah.
Far too much stuff. Also, I wonder if dagger still works.
Well, I mean, it definitely has the same skill tree. Like, even in the bit of footage he shows, it's like in the middle of a fight, a giant bit of text comes over the middle of the screen where it's like, medium armor level to 37. It's like, okay, good. It's still Elder Scrolls.
Yeah. I mean, they were making a big deal about if they're adding a new class, which apparently is something they do incredibly rarely in these sorts of games. But I don't know how difficult it is to do that, but maybe really difficult if you've got all this content.
A lot of balancing, especially because ESO has maybe more focus on PvP.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, there's a lot of PvE, obviously, because it's Elder Scrolls.
Mm. Anyway, ESO, they did a bit of that. We got to see a little bit of Forza. Still no specific date is the major takeaway from that. It looks rad as flip, but like
it looks like cars.
Yeah. But and you know what was interesting is they actually sort of highlighted a little bit. It's like, oh yeah, here's a deep dive on the graphics. Here's a little bit of a talk about the physics model. Here's a talk about the audio, which I found really interesting. That's kind of cool. Like how much effort they're going into making the engines sound right and how the reverb on the track works. And it's like, okay, this is nice. Cool.
Have they caught up to Gran Turismo with the audio levels of spending way too long doing it?
I don't know. I don't know if does GT use the thing that Sony tried to advertise the PlayStation could do, like ray trace audio instead of ray trace the graphics and
spatial? No, I can't remember. It must do though, right? Or because somebody's got to use that thing. It's got to be the relatively first party stuff.
I mean, and they were in this Forza thing as well. They were saying it's like, our ray tracing works on these sorts of surfaces, and it does it all at 60 FPS on console, and it's like at 4K. And they're like, okay, that's pretty impressive. Show me. Let's see that in action. They were like, there's certain. The key thing there was like specific surfaces, like curved glass, for instance, is notoriously difficult. So they're not doing it on that. And there's a certain reflectiveness threshold where if it would be an unclean reflection, say, like, you know, not a crisp reflection, they're not doing it. And they'll fake it in some way, which is probably the right decision to make, right? Because you're not going to care too much about fuzzy reflections. Yeah. And it's only if your car is super shiny, you know, or in the windows and stuff that you're really going to want that stuff. So I think they're making smart decisions with how this stuff works. And can't wait, honestly. But no specific date. Slightly worrying. Slightly like how this was supposed to be out end of last year originally, and you still haven't dropped a date. It's how far away is it?
I hope it's this year.
It's damn well better. Microsoft need games.
Yeah. But maybe that's why they have to make a big deal out of it because it's actually quite far away. You know.
So we also got a little bit of a look at Minecraft, a deeper dive in Minecraft Legends. I'm coming around to it. This looked kind of cool.
Well, I mean, it is exactly what you suspected it might have been, even from that first trailer, where it's like it's basically just a MOBA.
It's a MOBA, but it's pretty freeform, right? So you're building your defenses, and there's all kinds of stuff you can build to help you, and it's.
I feel like that's one of those things where it's just not actually going to matter.
Well, there'll be a strategy.
Well, or it will just be like you'll build all the fancy defenses, but it won't matter because people will just like pinpoint alpha it and just bust through in one place, and then everything else you built will be completely irrelevant.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know. A little bit of me is interested now. Still not so sure I'm into their like almost cell shaded version of Minecraft look to it. Like that's. Almost the most off-putting thing about it, but I can see Minecraft Legends doing pretty well. I can see it now.
Yeah, probably
more so than Minecraft Dungeons.
Well,
which didn't really take.
Yeah, but that's because that was a bad game, not because the concept was bad.
Yeah, okay, I suppose you're right. So yeah, hold off to that. That's out in April. I'm I'm specifically skipping the order around a bit here
yeah,
because I want to end on what is clearly the best part of this whole thing. They ended the show with Redfall, which I don't know. I came away looking sort of somewhat surprised. Actually, it kind of looked better than I was expecting because they were sort of originally pitching it as a bit of a like Left 4 Dead.
It's not as Left 4 Dead as it looked like originally.
It's way more.
It's
arcane,
way more.
as I've
it's
said.
way more open world game.
Yeah, it's way more co-op open world game, and but the gameplay looks way more like an arcane game than I was expecting. Right, so it looks like your Deathloop kind of. It looks a bit Dishonored-y.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can definitely see that studio style, but I don't think it looked that like interesting in like terms of shooting stuff or anything. It's just like this doesn't look like it's going to be very interesting to play.
I don't know. I was more up on it having seen this than I have been. Let's put it that way. I'm a little more impressed with it coming away from this dive than I was before, but also I like get the feeling when they might have shown it might have been one of those we showed too much. Presentation like the Arcane are very used to at this point. They always show too much. I thought they showed too much Deathloop before it came out.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
but that was over multiple presentations.
That was over.
I mean, technically, this one is over multiple presentations as well at this point, but not into the same, in like length.
Only really 2 though, right? They only really had their major reveal trailer, and then this. And then it's coming out May 2nd. So in terms of the cycle, yeah, I think that's fine. But like perhaps deep, like because they were talking about how there's these weird like, some of the bosses and some of the like advanced strategies, and they were talking about this weird like these psychic realms kind of things that like where the vampires are in control and the world isn't right. And it's like maybe hold some surprises back, because that stuff doesn't sound bad, but it sounds like some of that stuff you might just want to encounter, right? And be like, what the bloody hell is this?
Maybe they have, like, maybe it was the opposite problem. Like, they kind of felt they had to show that to make it so that people would realise it's not just Left 4 Dead.
A bit more compelling, yeah. Yeah. The marketing guys might have sniffed that one out. But yeah, I'm a bit more up on it, I think, than I thought. And also, they did, even though it's co-op focused, they did mention that it can be soloed. So
it's like that's a risky situation as well.
Like, is it crap one solo?
Yeah, what's the balance like?
Or is it AI filling in gaps?
God. I hope not. That would be way worse.
So who knows? I mean, it will come out on Game Pass, so maybe I'll give it a go.
Presumably, yeah.
I mean, it will. It absolutely is. But all of this pales compared to what absolutely stole the show. Tango Gameworks were part of the Bethesda and ZeniMax acquisition. They're most famous for games like The Evil Within and most recently Ghostwire Tokyo. They've been working on a little project and kept it incredibly under wraps and unleaked until they shadow dropped it on the damn show. And holy shit, this is a me
the
game.
Big one.
Like
Game of the Year 2023 already.
I mean, it's on the cards, man. Hi-Fi Rush, a rhythm character action game. So, and by character action, I mean like DMC, Bayonetta style present, that sort of combat focused game, but where everything happens to the beat, and they could not stress that enough. Everything happens on the beat. Just feel the beat. Beat, 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 beat. If you could do a supercut of how many times they say beat, it would be pretty good. Comic book style, really great look, amazing animation, and just a total surprise. And spoiler alert, I guess, from where we talk about this in our usual slot in the podcast, I absolutely love it. Amazing. Yep. Amazing. What a great way to do this. Just drop it and like everybody just it's taken over. Like Microsoft needed an adrenaline injection.
Needed a win. Yeah.
And they've achieved it here.
A W, as they say.
A W, yep. Big fat Wario.
Big fat Wario right here. Well, that's a shame because then an L is a Luigi.
Not even a Waluigi.
Okay, well, coming up a large section on that game.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be a large section, but it'll be a section. Yeah. It's just, I did not see it coming. I was, kind of like everything else I've just talked about. It's kind of nonsense. It's like, just go play Hi-Fi Rush, man. It's on Game Pass right now. It's actually also on PC and Steam and Epic. So it's like it's come out in more places than you'd think, and it's great. Alrighty, moving on. So, just keeping with the Microsoft theme, I suppose. Let's roll on. So Microsoft have accused Sony of misleading EU regulators over the Activision deal. It's like, in my notes I've written, the gloves are coming off. I think Microsoft are finally losing their patience with how Sony is approaching this, because the EU has basically threatened to block it at this point. And I think the EU is like the most skeptical over it than over all of the regulators at this point. So they're basically just come out and saying like, "Hey, we're not sure Sony is over-egging the whole Call of Duty thing. It's not just about Call of Duty." I think that whole conversation we had a couple of weeks ago about, "Hey, don't forget King, guys. King is enormous, but perhaps doesn't affect Sony's business as much." So Microsoft have restated that they plan to carry on Call of Duty for 10 years on PlayStation. And that it would agree to a more permanent contract if Sony were if that would appease Sony, like put something in writing, get it locked in. So hey, Microsoft really want this deal to happen, and I think that's fair enough. Like, if Sony are worried about Call of Duty, then and Microsoft just want to be like, well, fine, we'll make Call of Duty not an issue. You can have it. Anyway, that's what's happening in lawsuit land.
Lawsuit land.
Not really lawsuit, I suppose. I'm going to shift around in my notes a little bit. Let's try and stay on the Microsoft tip. So, coming back to those layoffs that Microsoft had a few weeks back, we now know a little bit more about where they affected things. 343 Studios was apparently, we knew they had been hit by it. Apparently that number was over 90 developers from the studio were lost. As a result of that, they are maybe not as a result. This might have been decided before, but Story DLC has now been cancelled, which is a little weird because, like, when you were playing Halo Infinite, you sort of knew that there were bits of map that didn't seem particularly used, and there were certain things on the map which never really became a thing at all. There were like these shrine type objects that were never really part of the plot or never really part of the thing, and so it's like, oh, maybe they're going to do stuff with this. Maybe they're just going to use the world and add some more things into it, some side story or something. But yeah, it felt like that was going to happen. It's not now. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. In Halo Infinite's a bit of a shit show.
Well, yeah. The question is, what are they actually going to be doing now?
Well, apparently, most recently, they have finally started to use Forge mode. Like, Forge mode released, right? But now they're trying to alleviate their own pipeline problems by making community playlists, which is exactly what they've done in previous Halo games, right? Dating all the way back to 3 and Reach, I think they started doing that stuff to keep. And it's like, fair enough, do that. That actually adds some much needed variety to the game. Decent idea. So that's actually finally going in. But otherwise, yeah, I think Halo Infinite might actually just sputter out. The other thing they've announced is that they're ditching Slipspace Engine. So this whole rebuild, the whole deal, like they've designated that as a failure. So presumably a lot of those 90 developers were the engine devs,
right?
And they've announced they're going to move to Unreal 5 for the next Halo game, and just
does that make split screen more or less likely?
Really good question. Don't know.
Like, how good is Unreal and split screen?
Yeah, well, clearly 343's own engines haven't been capable, so like I would hope Unreal would already be capable.
Trying to think of a game
that did it.
Yeah, I mean, not an Unreal 5.
I mean, Unreal can do pretty much anything,
Well,
right?
yes, in theory.
Because Hi-Fi Rush is Unreal powered. I don't think it's Unreal 5 powered.
I mean,
but it looks amazing.
They're currently working on an Unreal 5 version of Rocket League, and that has split screen. So
yeah, that's true.
Not that there's much to Rocket League in split screen, really.
And Fortnite is already Unreal 5 powered, right? So
Sure.
I know Unreal 5 can do it, but what's a big open world game in Unreal Engine?
Mass Effect, the early Mass Effects, before they're not really big open world.
They're not open world, no.
Unless you count the planets.
Because obviously that Matrix City demo shows that it can be done. I just don't think there is a big open world, like a Watch Dogs.
How about Borderlands? That's Unreal powered.
Yeah.
That's not really open world either, though. Really, it's lots of segmented areas.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm thinking of something like Assassin's Creed or something. You know what I mean, like an open world. I'm just wondering if they'd crossed that kind of threshold yet.
What was Assassin's Creed powered by? Is that like
an
internal engine?
Yeah, I think so. And Watch Dogs and stuff must be the same as Assassin's Creed, right?
I guess.
Yeah, the Ubisoft engine.
Some sort of Ubisoft engine, whatever they call it. They've got a few now, I think, Ubisoft.
Yeah. And obviously, like Spider-Man is its own thing, right? Stuff that's not Unreal, is it?
I mean, probably the biggest Unreal open world is still Fortnite, because that map's not small.
No, it's not. Yeah. It is massive. What about
Fortnite?
What is Apex powered by? I suppose that's
EA.
It's not Frostbite though, but I guess it's Respawn's own engine.
Interesting. Anyway, I just thought that might be a barrier that they haven't quite yet.
Jedi might be Unreal powered. Thinking of Respawn, but like,
oh yeah, I think it is, but that's not open world.
It's open world-ish.
It's Metroidvania-y, I suppose.
Yeah. It's open world adjacent.
Sure. Anyway, just thought, but yeah, it can do pretty much anything.
I think at this point it's safe to say Unreal's a safe bet.
Unreal powers the what's the Zelda remake on the Switch? The Link's Awakening.
Oh yeah. So it does.
Yeah.
It's not CryEngine any longer.
Not CryEngine.
For all those weird games that used CryEngine.
Not many.
More than you'd think.
Sonic Boom.
Yes, Sonic Boom, for example.
Famously the weird one running on CryEngine. What an odd choice that is. Right.
Anywho.
So that's going on.
I just remember that, that guy Ben that we knew, he's not a really nice guy, but he worked there, and I remember and he worked on CryEngine, and he said it was a nightmare. But do you remember they just didn't pay them for like months?
Yes.
Shocking. Anyway.
Yeah, who owns that stuff now? Someone like Crytek aren't necessarily their own thing anymore. It's kind of owned by someone else, and I can't remember. Right. What else do we do? Sort of stay on the Microsoft side a little bit and give me some segues. Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, all three of them are no longer part of E3. So E3 might be over, guys.
Finally.
Yeah, because this means they're not going to do their big press conferences, I guess.
Well, they already were. It means they're not going to have booths.
Yeah. But does this mean we're going to get like the Microsoft showcase at the Microsoft Theatre?
I mean, probably
the big event, or are they going to?
They might as well.
Or are they going to do these or are they going to do a Nintendo and everyone do directs? Like, are Sony content with state of play?
They already basically are doing that.
Yeah.
It's like, have they done? Microsoft have, I guess, in the Microsoft Theatre.
Sure.
But that's basically it. Sony, last Sony one was that weird one where they kept moving people around different venues.
Yeah, was it The Last of Us? Was it The Last of Us 2 year?
And the Ghost of Tsushima thing.
Oh yes,
it's looking like the closest to an E3 kind of replacement is the Game Awards at this point.
Yeah, kind of.
Probably the biggest thing on the calendar now. That's not just one.
That's not really a show. I mean, it's a show. It's not like
it is a show.
It's not like a floor show.
No, it's definitely not a floor show.
There won't be one of those. Yeah,
but even then, it's not really the same thing, is it? Because it's kind of a here's a trailer, moving on, kind of thing, as opposed to like they don't do. This is not the place for where they do dives. I guess ONL is a little bit. Gamescom ONL is a little more what you'd expect from a from an E3 style show where they get developers on and they talk about it for a bit.
No one actually needs to do any floor stuff any longer. It's all just online. The only floor stuff now is with packs for the indies, and that makes sense for them.
Yeah,
for them. Yeah,
it depends if the industry values the concept of a preview anymore. Right, being able to give journalists a way to play games ahead of time, because that is.
But I guess there's other ways you could do that.
Yeah.
They just invite people over, don't they?
Well, yeah,
kind of, but like any studio always has a bit of the developers always have a bit of beef with developing these things, because making a vertical slice demo is tough.
It's hard, yeah,
and it's extra resource. So it's like previews can harm and hurt based on that, and then it perhaps locks you into stuff that you wouldn't normally lock in.
I think also at this point, do any of the companies care about journalists any longer? They just market their own stuff.
That's also part of it.
When you do get those previews, like IGN does them or something, they're
the
clearly
Sonic Frontiers month.
Yeah, they're like working together with the developer to kind of promote the game. It's obviously a mutually beneficial arrangement where it's not really it's not like journalistic ethics thing on the preview, is it? I don't think. Maybe on the reviews they're a bit more cautious, but like they're clearly like we're going to get clicks because people are interested in this game. And then the other side is we want to show the game in the best possible light. And so I don't think
it's all about the hype train. And if someone is confident, they put out a preview, right? But well, that's the way it's gone anyway. It's like you only see that kind of stuff if the studio is confident about their product. Otherwise, it stays under wraps.
Yeah. But I mean, that can work, right? I mean, just Shadow drop the best game of the year out of nowhere, and that can work too.
I mean, you've got to be careful with a Shadow drop. Like, I guess the rarity about Hi-Fi Rush was just how high profile a Shadow drop that is.
Yeah. Well, it better be, otherwise no one will even know exists. They'll just be on sale.
Yeah. Alrighty. So yeah, what E3 now is even more in question. We're gonna have to stop calling it E3, I guess, in that period of the middle of the year, the summer. Is it now Summer Games Fest? Is that just how we have to refer to it? Has Keighley won?
Well, I mean, is everyone going to continue to time their big thing to summer? Probably just because that's like the lead up to Christmas,
I guess. Yeah.
Basically,
yeah. That's when they think the hype train needs to start. I guess is June.
Yeah, that's just convenient timing. So that will probably still be the main event time, if not, and then go to a physical place to do it.
And then maybe slide in. I mean, they've got plenty of opportunity now, right? They've got that period of time. They've got Gamescom ONL. They got Game Awards in December if they want to like get the next year propped up. There's plenty of things that they don't have to run themselves and they probably will run something themselves in that sort of September period as well, just to really hammer home holiday stuff.
But just videos,
yeah, and that's fine.
Yeah,
if they're presented well, that's fine. I bet me it is going to miss the stage if they don't do the big stage shows. I think I am going to miss that a little.
Only because we like dumb things happen.
Yeah,
it's like it's not about anything to do with the way it's presented, apart from failure.
Yeah, well, I like
That's what we want.
The Ubisoft ones in particular, right? Gotta miss those because they're mental. Anywho, what else we got? Let's talk EA for a moment because they had a couple of weird cancellations
amongst all the other cancellations.
Yeah, so many cancellations. So Apex Legends Mobile is being shut down. It's not been live for very long, but Respawn aren't happy with the uptake of players hasn't been what they expected on the mobile version, and also they're a bit worried about that. They came out and just strictly said like, hey, we're a bit worried about the content pipeline for this thing. We can't at the moment because Respawn themselves aren't developing it. They're working with a partner for the port, and apparently their pipeline between them and their partner just isn't fast enough. So it's like updates would come out for the main game and then would take too long to trickle down to the mobile version, and they just weren't happy about that. So they're shutting it down. Battlefield Mobile was apparently going to be a thing, and that's not going to ever see the light of day now. Probably for the best. Battlefield's not exactly on a high reputation streak at the moment.
Well, assuming it was just going to be like 2023 mobile.
Yeah, which it probably was,
yes,
right?
Probably, yes. They weren't going to bring back Battlefield Heroes for mobile.
God, Battlefield Heroes, man.
I mean, that was basically a mobile game at the time, but not mobile.
You know what? Weirdly, in today's market, like I feel like Battlefield Heroes might have a place if they came back and redid it. Because it was like it felt, looking back at it, it was probably one of those ahead of its time games. I'm not saying it was good,
no,
but in concept, it was a little ahead of its time. And most worryingly of all, there was this apparently a Titanfall single player game apparently in the works that has also been cancelled.
I think just like you don't want a Titanfall single player game, you want a Titanfall with both. Like it always has been.
You do want a Titanfall
well, not
with
always
both.
has been.
Yeah, but
obviously Titanfall 1 was
that.
only multiplayer, and that was a special case.
Titanfall 2 was like the
best of both worlds.
Yeah,
Titanfall 2 was an excellent game on both sides. I mean, the problem with Titanfall 2 is that its multiplayer didn't necessarily expand on what made Titanfall 1 great, particularly. Like, it was still fantastic. I still loved the hell out of it, but it was maybe not enough different from the first. And the single player was really the kicker. Like, it's just like, because it was so good and so inventive. At a time when nothing was really happening in the first person shooter single player category, something you could argue is still the case.
Yep.
So it's a bit of a bummer if that really was trundling along and getting somewhere.
I don't think. I mean, they would have had to do some marketing, but it's like Titanfall just seems like a multiplayer game that has a single player, not a single player game that has multiplayer.
Yeah, maybe. But the problem is they have Apex now, right?
Well,
which is their Titanfall multiplayer game, even if it isn't Titanfall. So I don't know.
Not close enough.
I know. And Respawn are a little split now as well, thanks to the Jedi team and the Apex team. So whether or not they could scope up to run a third project.
So when was the last time that they lied about not working on Titanfall?
Oh, I don't know.
It's got to be within the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think it was pretty recently. They said that we're not working on Titanfall at the moment, and then this comes out that and the note I've written there is apparently this is the second time that a Titanfall branded project has been cancelled at this point.
Really? Oh,
what a bummer, man! Like it's a bummer for like I can sort of I don't know if Titanfall was ever the commercial success that EA wanted it to be, but what a fascinating game series that is. Even if it's 2 games, 3 if you count Apex, but like such a bummer. Damn you, EA. And your money focus. What else we got? Nintendo have won a class action lawsuit that they were facing on the subject of Joy-Con drift. Basically because the case being made against them was quite poorly constructed, as it turns out. So, like, this is kind of funny because, like, somewhere in Nintendo's EULA or end user license agreement, there was a clause saying it's like, hey, you can't actually take out a lawsuit against us for certain things, as all sorts of things. But the case against Joy-Con drift sort of ended up hinging on that statement. That it's like this suit shouldn't even exist because of the agreement. And they tried to argue that it's like, well, it's not our fault. Like the kids just agree to this stuff when they play on their Switches, man. We're just the parents buying stuff for our kids, right? To which the judge was like, nah, dog, you're the owners of this console.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, technically, like, buying a Switch isn't age gated. Technically.
No, I guess not. Yeah.
But turning on the account probably
maybe
has in that agreement says that you have to be a certain age, probably.
Yeah,
I would assume.
So it's double edged. I mean, boo! Nintendo probably should be held a little bit more responsible for the Joy-Con problems that the Switch has faced. Maybe a little bit more. I mean, yeah, they've got that like repair service and things now.
And I mean, right at the launch, they were fairly liberal about allowing you to get things fixed. Not as much as Microsoft, obviously, but
Yeah, and I think
I sent my Joy-Cons in like multiple times.
yeah, yeah. So at least they've done that, but perhaps on the flip side, like if you a little lesson, if you're going to go legal, make sure you're watertight.
Well, that is the eternal lesson of laws.
Yeah, read the end user license agreement and understand it before you even start.
But it's not that they didn't understand it; it's that they were trying to use the loophole.
Yeah,
they tried to come up with a loophole, but the legal agreement was actually watertight.
Yeah. As far as the judge was concerned, I guess they thought like maybe he could be swayed, but parents, you are culpable for your kids.
Unsurprisingly.
Right. Let's talk Nintendo. They also did a thing.
Yeah.
They
much more recently than the Microsoft one.
Yeah, they chucked out a sudden, like, very little warning Nintendo Direct.
Well, that's what they've been doing over the recent ones. Although, the January-February slot is traditional for Nintendo Direct.
Yeah, for Ninty. Okay, so this isn't in order that it was presented, but I've picked out some stuff. Hey, Samba de Amigo's back, and I kind of don't like its new look.
No, I barely even remember the original. I was like, this doesn't look as good as I even remember.
The original kind of had this like Dreamcast era intentionally flat cartoony look.
Yeah.
And they've decided to sort of try and modernize that, and so everything is still like weirdly flat, but is now lit properly. So it just looks like these like just cardboard figurines in the Samba de Amigo. It doesn't look right. But the game just looks like Samba de Amigo, right? So use the Joy-Cons to shake in rhythm. But the funniest thing about this whole part was like the voiceover was like, use the Joy-Cons gently. And I'm
obviously.
And I'm like, in a Samba de Amigo game, no, you want to be shaking those maracas like a mother. But
you always have to use them gently.
Use gently.
I'm surprised they didn't, mention a strap at any point.
Motion control responsibly. Yeah, that's true. They didn't mention the strap.
But I didn't even like the graphic of the real person shaking the controllers was small enough that I couldn't tell whether they even had the rail on.
Oh right,
with where the strap attaches.
Yeah.
I didn't even see if she had the straps. We ought to go back and watch that and see if Nintendo have failed at their own messaging by not having the straps shown.
Safety first, Nintendo. Samba responsibly. Pikmin 4 got a proper look this time rather than that little teaser we had from Miyamoto last time.
Yeah.
Well, eventually got from Miyamoto last time after
the other Pikmin thing.
Faked us out with Pikmin Bloom for a moment. Get this out of the way. It's out this year, July.
How does it look?
It looks like a Pikmin game.
Well, they're bringing back the underground from Pikmin 2, which is the interesting bit, because we talked about that before, where it was the idea of more structured and less time-limited levels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those definitely return. There's a doggo.
I hate that design.
Oh.
It doesn't have a nose, and it's real stupid looking.
I think it kind of.
It's obviously based on like a Bulborb or whatever. It's like a weird Pikmin / Bulborb crossbreed thing.
I mean, yeah, but it fits. Yeah, it looks stupid, but it fits with Pikmin. I think. I mean, I guess my problem is like it's hard to. I think Pikmin is a hard game to trail. Like, yes, we got the hint of that the dungeons returning, which you only really are going to notice if you knew Pikmin 2.
Obviously.
But for the rest of it just looked like another Pikmin game.
Well, the other thing that I know,
they've got ice guys now.
Yes, different Pikmin types. The other thing that I noticed, which I think is kind of interesting, considering the remake of Pikmin 3 only just came out, relatively speaking, was that like, as far as I can see from the footage that they show of gameplay, it doesn't look like it uses motion controls. Like the cursor is always fixed in front of you as he's running around, and it never does anything that looks like pointing.
So it's going to be a bit more GameCube-y.
Yeah, it looks like they've gone back to the old controls, but maybe not. It's impossible to tell, or maybe it'll be an option.
Oh, yeah, it's probably optional, I reckon. Maybe it looks better to not have the cursor on screen in a trailer, right?
Well, I mean, but the cursor's always there. Yeah. It's just that it's always at that fixed point in front of you in the GameCube fashion.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of interesting.
I mean, I'd prefer it like that, because I tried that Pikmin 3 demo and I didn't get along with those motion controls at all.
Did Pikmin 3 not have a classic option for control?
You could turn some of it you could like toggle some things, but it didn't like turn it fully back to classic because Pikmin 3 had like extra buttons and stuff that you had to manage anyway, so it didn't map the controls as easily.
Or was it one of those? Yeah, where the game was designed around you having a different method of control.
Yeah,
unless it wouldn't have worked particularly well.
Yeah, but yes, I definitely prefer the old method. I mean, it probably won't be exactly like the old one. Presumably, you'll still have actual camera control. You won't have the hold button to focus method of the GameCube.
Oh, yeah. Sort of forgot about that. Anyway, Pikmin. It's coming out this year. We're getting a Pikmin game.
Finally.
Maybe they'll launch that t-shirt.
Maybe.
I kind of forgot about just saying Kirby Return to Dreamland Deluxe. That's coming.
I mean, who cares about that, really?
I mean, it's a Kirby game.
I mean, it's a remake of an old one.
And it's a proper Kirby game, I suppose. And yes, it's
true, but like they've just made their Kirby 64 game. I mean, not actually Kirby 64, but they've just made their real Kirby new modern game.
But it's not new, yeah. Except it's got some new stuff, right? That was the whole part of this trailer. It's like there's like a Bowser's
side
thing.
Story thing.
Yeah, like a Bowser's Fury addendum to it. But anyway, that's out end of February, pretty soon.
Oh wow, that's exciting.
If you're into your Kirby, yeah.
If you haven't already played it,
yeah. When was the original? Was it literally? That was a Wii game, wasn't it?
No, I think it might have been Wii U. That one. There was one on the Wii as well of a similar style.
Right. So I continue to be bummed out by Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pass.
Yep, naturally.
Because they were like, because they announced this in such a confusing manner that, hey, Game Boy and GBA games are coming to Nintendo Switch Online was what they said in the damn thing.
I don't know if they did.
And then they eventually, at the end of it, said, sort of on screen, had it shown in the plus expansion pass.
I don't think they actually said Game Boy and Game Boy Advance are coming to Nintendo Switch Online. They said Game Boy is coming to Nintendo Switch Online. Then they did the surprise reveal of the Game Boy Advance, and it specifically says at the bottom of the screen, plus expansion pass at that point.
Yeah.
And then they kind of reiterated it at the end.
Both are going into expansion pass.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't get how Nintendo can think there's value, like subscription worthy value in this. I still don't.
Well, I mean, it's a bunch of things. Like originally when we were talking about it, like this seems really cheap. Like there's not enough stuff here, but you know they're trying to put more stuff.
They are trying to put more, but they're still like the NES and SNES collections still haven't expanded. I've noticed.
Well, no, obviously now they're doing the Game Boy Advance.
I know, but there's not enough. Like it's not like it's a good portion of their original library that's there.
Nintendo are never going to just dump their emulation stockpile onto the Switch. That's just not
I mean, but they should like be eking it out, right? Or I don't know. It just feels like it's going to be another bummer. Like, yeah, okay, Kura's there.
It's like we literally have a way to theoretically play multiplayer Kura again.
What?
In theory.
That's amazing.
Except not really.
What a callback that is.
That's ridiculous. Okay.
And,
somewhat exciting.
Yeah, I mean that's that. And Golden Sun was on that list of future releases, and F-Zero.
If
you want them to mention F-Zero and Golden Sun in a direct, then you got that, just not new ones.
Yeah.
Box ticked, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean don't get me wrong, GBA is rad, but
yeah, it's rad.
There's some pretty great games on it. But I could just continue to be bummed out by the plus expansion pass bit. It's just annoying. Okay, let's talk about Splatoon 3 is getting some DLC. Yeah. I mean, we kind of knew Splatoon was always going to get some DLC, right? Obviously. After they did it for 2. But boy, is this kind of weird.
Well, the thing is, like, it's weird, but then I remembered that this is just how Nintendo do expansion passes, where like the first part is completely insubstantial,
and the second part is
the actual content.
Yeah. So this was focused on Wave 1 of the Splatoon 3 DLC, which is completely and utterly pointless.
Yep.
Like utterly, and even like go out of their way during the reveal of this to like cement that it's pointless.
Yep.
So basically what they're doing is they're bringing back the Inkopolis, the Splatoon 1 version of Inkopolis as a hub.
Yeah.
So if you don't like walking around Splatoon 3's new area,
walk around this
fine.
other one instead.
Walk around Splatoon 1's area, which in fairness is a lot smaller, so it might actually be more convenient.
Well, in some ways,
if you can't be bothered to use the menu, which is
that's true. Then you can just skip it all.
Yeah.
In some ways, I was thinking like they've just sort of accidentally admitted that Splatoon 3's design was less good.
I mean, maybe
by being like, you like the old one so much, we'll give you the old one.
Well, yeah, maybe. Or it's like, hey, the Squid Sisters haven't had much love for a while, so let's. I mean, that was kind of their selling point. It's like, hey, during a Splatfest, you get the Squid Sisters instead of.
Well, again, it's like if you don't like the new design.
Yeah. Where's my Splatoon 2 ladies
sure.
at? I can't remember what they're called now. Yeah, I can't remember the band name, but
yes, they naturally made an excessively big deal of nothing.
Yeah, because they even say like even the stores like they just explicitly say okay, maybe this opens up more options for people that still want to buy the stuff quickly. But no, all the stores in Inkopolis will just mirror what's happening with the stores in whatever Splatsville.
I mean,
it's utterly pointless.
But you wouldn't want to inconvenience people with having to transfer between two hubs to buy different things all the time.
Maybe not, but that's fine. I think that gives them. It's adding something to do.
That's not playing the game.
Yeah. There was some nod towards like. They did at least mention the words Salmon Run, but I'm not quite sure in what context.
I think they just said you can access all the things in that hub.
Yeah.
Like they mentioned Salmon Run and the shoal.
Because Salmon Run wouldn't have been in the original.
No, that's
design,
true, I guess.
So they'd have had to have added that somewhere. And they also went to the effort of adding new characters for the stores. And it's like, can you just use the old characters for if you were doing Inkopolis properly?
Well, unless they're planning on doing Splatoon 2 Inkopolis, and then you'd have to...
Well, apart from Sheldon, obviously, because Sheldon's in Splatsville right now, but then Krusty Sean is off on his holidays, according to the Nintendo app.
Okay.
Krusty Sean.
Yeah, Krusty Sean.
What a great name. But anyway, the more interesting part is the little teaser they gave for Wave 2, which is the proper DLCs pack, which will be another single player. We expect to be another single player experience, in much the same way Octo expansion was, and all they've really shown is this near automata looking environment, which is basically just white and untextured, kind of square, and it's like, okay, fine, that's semi interesting, I suppose, but like, what's the deal? I kind of preferred how they like revealed Octo expansion in that respect, because they were just like, bam, here it is, here's what's going on, surprise, it's coming out soon. Whereas this is just like, here, have a white room, and I'm like, well, I know nothing, so it's hard to get hype about it right now. The thing I'm interested in is if they do the same thing in Octo expansion, where they try and mix up the single player again, right? Because Splatoon 3's single player is kind of a weird amalgam of the original style of campaign, but with Octo expansions. Some of Octo expansions limited ideas and like challenge modes and the money system that Octo had. And it's like, I don't know if I'm interested, and it was less interesting as a result because it wasn't as fresh, to use that. Get that in there. I want this expansion to do something fresh again. This is their chance to experiment a bit, I think. But no idea if that's true.
No,
don't know anything. And they kind of didn't mention whether or not that would be part of if you had NSO plus expansion.
No, they specifically didn't, which makes me think
which is unusual because like NSO plus expansion, that the whole deal, right, is that Nintendo games tend to just get the DLC. Although I don't think that's true of Hyrule Warriors either. I don't know if Hyrule Warriors
that's not technically a Nintendo game,
kinda. But yeah, do you know what I mean? There feels like there are some outliers already. And like they didn't Fire Emblem Engage, right? They didn't mention whether that was thrown in either with expansion pass.
No, I mean I don't think they ever necessarily made the implication that it was going to be like all DLC or whatever.
No, I don't think they said all, but it was a selling point, right? Like what is in that batch? Like Animal Crossing and Mario Kart, and that's it.
And Splatoon 2.
Oh yeah, Splatoon 2. I mean that expansion's good, but. Come on, guys! You need to make this thing seem more valuable. Metroid Prime Remastered. Did we know this was a thing? Did we know this was coming?
Rumours, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think it had been officially announced. Anyway, this shadow dropped.
Well, the digital version is shadow dropped. The physical version is like months away.
Physical version is for some reason some time away, yeah. But the digital download version available now. A little bit disappointing it wasn't I think the rumour was at one point they were going to do all three.
Well, yeah.
Like how they did with the Wii Remastered Edition, right? Yeah. Whether the Metroid Prime collection.
But at least in this one, it appears they've done like way more work. Like this is actually a real remaster.
So you can play it classic style, but the interesting part is like, hey, you can play it twin stick modern shooter control style if you want. And a bit of me is like, no, that's
exactly.
This isn't what Metroid was about. Yeah, the whole point was that it had this weird, unique control system with the lock-on movement and stuff like that. I don't want to play it like Halo.
My question is, who did all this work? Is it?
I don't know. Well, I assume it's not Retro.
They must be busy making the new one, right?
Hopefully.
And was it done in Japan, or because it's not? It was made in Retro's American, right?
Yeah.
I'm just curious. Is it one of these? It's not one of these remaster studios that specialize in it, that they got in or anything like that.
Maybe. I mean, I wonder if they brought in like Deep Silver or something, who they normally who have work with Nintendo a lot. I don't know if Deep Silver have put out a project with Nintendo for a while, so maybe they were pulled onto this. I'm just guessing. Could be anyone. But hey,
seem to have done a decent job though.
Yeah, I mean, it actually looks pretty great.
It does, yeah. I've seen some side by side, and it looks really good.
It's
honestly.
There are some shots that didn't look so great, especially like the things where they were like doing close-ups of Samus. Like they didn't look like they had perhaps spent too much time on Samus's suit model that much. And there's a lot of those little close-ups in places in the game. And some of the visor effects still looked a little old school. But the actual general environment detail in spots, especially like the opening sort of browny, sandy area of Metroid Prime, there looked like there was some significant work. On the ice area, they showed some shots from that, and that looked pretty nice as well.
And the most important thing for me is that keep the kind of vibes the same.
The vibe is the same, yeah.
I just hate it when that first Halo anniversary is so bad. I don't know why they screwed that one up, especially when they got it quite right for Halo 2.
Different teams, I think. Halo 1 anniversary, I think, was handled by Gearbox.
No, is that right? Because Gearbox did the PC port.
They did the PC
original
port,
Halo back in the day. Yeah,
was it
they do.
I want to say they did the first anniversary version. I might be wrong on that. And then Halo 2 was in house.
Was 343? Was it?
Yeah, I think so. Because there was while they were putting together Master Chief Collection.
Oh, that might explain it then. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just disappointed when they changed the art direction. It's too much, and it looks like they've done pretty well with this Metroid.
Yeah, it looks great. Honestly, it's tempting. Honestly, it's like I've been sort of thinking about going back to Prime for a long time.
I think it's been long enough.
I went back to Prime pretty recently.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Last time my GameCube still had all its cables after someone threw out parts of my GameCube.
No, really?
Yeah.
Oh, bummer.
I forget which one it is. I think it's the power cable, which is bad because it's a Nintendo product.
Yeah, that's pretty bespoke. Yeah, might struggle to find. Well, no, you probably won't. They'll probably be on eBay.
Yeah, probably.
You could probably buy one of those busted
GameCube.
You could probably buy one of those busted listings on eBay, and the power supply will be fine, right?
Yeah, probably.
It'd be nice and cheap.
I have a GameCube in the cellar of my mum's place. I think there's a GameCube. Anyway, try and find out next time I'm there. Yeah.
Did you ever have a Wii, Zach? Because that'll run it, right?
Well, I mean, yes, we had a Wii. I'm not sure we still have a Wii.
Okay. Yeah, because that'll run it just fine.
You know what, run on real hard. Also because of the memory cards. Although I guess the memory cards will still work on the Wii. Yeah. It doesn't do any reformatting, does it?
No.
That was before that age.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine.
It's when backwards compatibility was actually real.
Well, it's because the Wii was basically a GameCube.
Yeah, pretty much.
Two GameCubes sellotaped together. Yeah. So there's that. Get hype. Advance Wars 1+2 is actually coming out.
Wow. Inevitably.
Yep. April 21st.
Has that just been on a shelf? I doubt they've done any dev on it for like a year.
100%. I bet that's exactly what's happened. Just because Ukraine kicked up. That was the reason Nintendo gave for delaying it in the first place. It's like it's a bit insensitive with Ukraine kicking off. Fair enough.
Other companies wouldn't care, but Nintendo cares.
Nintendo cared, yeah. So almost exactly a year after that, it will actually come out.
Speaking of that, not really related to any particular game, but I wonder if, like, are we about to get a new wave of games where China is the enemy and not Russia?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I bet.
Definitely are. I mean, that will definitely happen in Call of Duty, etc.
We can get another CNC generals.
Well, do you mean that's funny because that's as a. Well, are you saying because Russia would be too touchy to make it? Right? I see.
But China is like. Well, yeah. I mean, there's also problems with China currently as well.
Yeah, China is like poised to invade Taiwan right now. So,
I was speaking more about
careful.
Other, like balloons and whatnot.
Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Well, it's the same thing, right? Yeah. But yeah, that would be that would be a risk if you developed a multi-million-dollar video game with China as the enemy, and then they suddenly invaded Taiwan and you couldn't put it out.
Yeah. Maybe we need to go back to generic Middle Eastern enemies. That's real bad though for other reasons.
You're
gonna come up with some fake nation like games like to every now and then,
or North Korea.
I mean, I think no one would mind if you did North Korea. That would probably be okay.
Even though it never makes sense when they do that. But yeah.
Just make it freaking US nationalists, right? Make it the.
Well, they tried that in like the last Far Cry, didn't they?
Yeah, Far Cry did it.
Yeah, like the Far Cry did, or like Deus Ex did back in the day.
Far Cry 5 did, yeah. Not 6. 6 were just
Nazis on the moon.
Nazis on the moon, yeah.
Go back to Wolfenstein methods.
I mean, modern neo-Nazis like uprise and take over Germany again, and there you go.
Don't make Germany again. That's a bit much. Unspecified Nazis.
Exactly, unspecified Nazis.
That could be done.
Anyway, the end of Nintendo.
Yep. Finally, we got to see another Tears of the Kingdom trailer.
Dan, do you actually want to talk about this at all? Or should we just not?
That's fine not to be honest.
I mean, you said you've seen it though, right?
I did see it. Oh, yeah. No. I mean, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I don't know whether we learned a huge amount from it.
Oh, we learned at least one important thing.
What, that there's a quadcopter?
That you can build vehicles like Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts.
Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts.
I mean, are you building them, or are they
pretty sure, because they have a distinct like glue texture. That's the green energy stuff that looks like is what your arm is powered by.
Huh. Yeah. Okay.
So it looks distinctly like you're going to unearth these parts from around the world and then tape them together with the green gunk and then build vehicles.
I don't know how happy I am about that. I mean, it makes me smile, but I don't know what reaction that really is.
I guess they were like, how can we go further with the physics stuff, right?
Yeah. And there's all the glitches of Breath of the Wild with like stacking two magnesis things on top of each other and then being able to just fly with them and that kind of stuff. We'll just make that real.
We'll just make it real. Why not? I think that's cool. I don't know.
The question is like, how important is it going to be? Like, I could have seen that more as a thing that you would do inside shrines, like as a puzzle. To be like,
they didn't show any shrine stuff.
No, they didn't show any puzzle environment type thing.
I don't know if have they shown them in the environment at all?
I mean, obviously the shrines were there for the Sheikah Slate specifically, and that's like a lore thing, I guess. But they could have come up with some, like Sky Islands could have just had a different kind of shrine, and they might still.
They might still be there. Yeah, we just haven't seen them.
But they did, like, when they showed these vehicles being built of parts, it's like that would make sense in a puzzle environment where you're like. Imagine one of the old shrines where it's like those big stone balls, except now that you don't have, well, I guess you do still have stasis and whatnot, but if you didn't have the power to like impart momentum, what if you had to build a vehicle around it to transport a giant stone ball around? It's like, as a puzzle mechanic, that kind of makes sense. But is that what they're going to use it for? Don't know. I mean, maybe it could be like, maybe those could still be like those puzzles, but just in the world. Maybe you have to get like a giant stone ball from one side of the literal map to the other.
I always like the in-world puzzles where you just get the reward in the shrine better than some of the in-shrine puzzles.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
Oh,
maybe
right.
more
The,
of
the,
that
shri-
would be
the
cool.
shrine was the reward for doing the puzzle, and then you just go in and it's just there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did the puzzle in the overworld. Yeah,
So yeah,
like the weird one with all the wind. Do you remember the one with the super winds everywhere in that kind of valley? Like that was a cool one.
where you had to you had to blow up rocks to make a path to be able to
Yeah.
paraglide the whole route.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh.
That's kind of a
I don't know
fun
if I
one.
remember that one. Or the snowball run. Was that
Yeah.
a shrine in the end?
Yeah, because you had to
Sorry.
roll the snowball down the hill to knock open the big stone doors, and then that was a shrine.
Yeah, that's
where you
right.
just walk in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that mechanic seems like it could be that, but
Yeah.
it could just equally
I
be
bet
a
there's
kind of a
some
pointless
stuff around.
thing.
I bet there's some stuff.
Yeah,
around
presumably
there.
not.
If they they would have to, right? If they're really leaning into Banjo Kazooie nuts and bolts, where like
yeah, they wouldn't develop this whole mechanic and then just have it be completely throwaway in the end. Because you have a horse, you don't need a car.
Man, I need to- yeah.
You don't need a motorcycle either.
Well, no, but that's just a horse, basically.
I haven't
Yeah,
had this
fair.
thought for maybe about 5 years, maybe more now, where I should actually probably play nuts and bolts.
Okay.
I think you'd be
Did you
better off
not
playing Breath of
at
the
some
Wild than nuts and bolts.
I mean, certainly, but
yeah, fair enough.
there's just a curiosity to it because, like, I don't think I've ever actually. I think I
Have
spent
you
a
got it as
tiny.
part of that? Like,
It's in,
rare
yeah, it's in Red
replay,
Replay. Yeah.
or-
So I've got I mean, I think I touched it incredibly briefly when it first came out because someone at uni at the time had it, and I played it a little bit and was just like, I don't understand what's happened. This isn't a Banjo game, and then had that sort of reaction to it that everyone else did. It's like, this isn't Banjo. What's going on?
Yeah. But
the curiosity has risen for some reason.
Oh, and one more thing that I saw people speculating about was related to the building vehicles thing. So there's a moment in the trailer where he's using a weapon that like shoots a cannonball at a talus. Like he does the overhead swing, but like a cannonball fires out of it.
Okay.
And then in the older trailer, there's a moment where he's got a dragon head on the front of his shield that's like a flamethrower. Right, so it shoots flame out. And some people are thinking that might actually be part of the same system. Like, you might get weapon attachments, basically. So you can attach different weapon parts to make a weapon.
Zelda goes Call of Duty.
Yeah, kind of. It's not quite the same, but...
I get a sight on my bow that has a weird picture of like someone showing the rock symbol for some reason.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, the idea that, like, if you find weapon parts that you could theoretically attach to a vehicle, maybe you can actually attach them to like a handle and just use them as a weapon or your shield.
Weird.
It's kind of a cool idea as well.
And then how does the durability affect all
Well,
that?
I
Do we
mean,
get
yeah,
like attachment durability?
Yes, that is, what's the durability of the vehicle parts?
Oh God.
Are you just going to be able to fly this hovercraft around forever, or is it suddenly going to stop working and
Or,
then you have to paraglide away?
Is there some kind of fuel mechanic or?
Yeah. That's actually one thing that someone pointed out is like when he's shown using the like hover platform thing that has the fans on the side,
Quadcopter.
it doesn't seem to have a power source, whereas the car has like that green glowing thing in the back
Right.
that you would think is a power source.
So
but maybe it's not.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe
it's
that's
not.
just cargo of some kind.
Yeah, maybe it's
in the
something that you
car.
actually have to transport around, and that's part of the idea of it being a puzzle.
Could be.
Unless the quadcopter is a one-off and not buildable, or
Well, I mean, it has that green goop. Like they even show that hot air balloon that has the green goop attaching the hot air balloon to the basket, which is like that
Right.
seems kind of unnecessary, but okay.
can you just hijack one of the Bokoblin balloons?
Tie a bunch of octave balloons to
Yeah,
things
yeah.
and have them not instantly explode like they usually do.
Absolutely. Do you think they're holding back from us? I guess is the big question around Tears of the Kingdom, because I really hope it's yes. I want to be surprised by it, and
Well, I mean, I feel like-
not have too much just Breath of the Wild recycled.
Well, now that
Oh,
they've-
that's a terrible thing. Breath of the Wild's amazing, but
Yeah,
but I want to go into this feeling like that same sense of discovery that Breath of the Wild had, right? And if it's just we're
Exactly,
doing that
yeah.
again, it's not going to have that.
Well, I mean, they've definitely shown, obviously, the Sky Islands, there's plenty of those, and they've now definitely shown caves are really a thing. Like, that's definitely an environment you're going to be in.
Do you reckon they're going to be like dungeony? A system return to dungeons?
I don't know, it's kind of hard to tell.
They haven't revealed that, basically.
No.
Right? We just don't know.
Like it's weird because like the Sky Islands.
I think it's inevitable. It's inevitable. There'll be bigger dungeons in this than there were in
Well,
Breath
yeah,
of
I
the Wild.
mean, the Sky Islands seem like the ideal place for that rather than the underground, though. Like fully separated from the world so they can be whatever shape they need to be.
Sure.
Yeah.
And also, interestingly, when they show the Sky Islands, you can see that like the labyrinths are now part of that. Like the entire labyrinths have just taken off.
Just in the sky now.
Yeah.
Is there the risk, and this is the obvious question that we've been asking since the start, I think, is there the risk that this becomes their attempt at making the ideas from Skyward Sword work in a slightly more acceptable manner?
Well, I mean, they've already succeeded on that front because it's it's all in the world. It's not flying into this weird overworld map and then dropping onto an island. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's like I don't know I don't know how much they're hiding in terms of the world exactly. Like it seems like they've shown that it is just the Breath of the Wild world and there's Sky Islands and there's caves, and that's like I don't feel like there's going to be much more surprises on that front.
Like a whole nother continent attached
Yeah.
or something. Yeah. There could be.
Well, yeah, I mean there's space to.
Yeah.
That would be a surprise if they do like on those edges of the Breath of the Wild map where there is like distinctly land over there.
Land,
If it's just like here's some more
You
land.
can go there. I don't know. I kind of hope that most of the base map is different. Like maybe have some familiarity, but like
Well, it at least looks like there's stuff on the base map. Like there's a lot more random things laying around now.
sure. But I hope it's just not the map, right? Because it's just again that's another one of those discoverable, discovery things. If you know it too well, it's not going to have that. I assume this has been on their minds.
I mean, it won't have that same feeling as the first game. It's just because it is the same.
Well, I mean, like
world.
It's what I'm hunting for, though.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like it's a lot more similar to like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask in that sense, because it's like it is just that game again, but with different stuff. Apart from in that one, the world was different,
Was a different,
but it
map,
was
yeah,
still the same
completely.
mechanically. Like I guess you could say in this case, like the mechanics are more different, but maybe the world's more the same.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know why I'm complaining about that, because that's the Yakuza thing, right?
Right.
There's a familiarity
I mean,
to Kamurocho that I really appreciate.
You know where everything is, kind of.
I mean, we just don't know, really. It's hard to tell, isn't it? Until you play it, like whether it's a problem or it's actually a benefit, or potentially. I mean, if anyone can make it work, it's these guys that made
presumably.
Breath of the Wild.
And everyone seems to still be assuming that we're going to get a real trailer, and I don't think we are.
I don't think we are.
I think they'll just let it come out.
I think that's wise.
No,
I think it is wise for them. They already know they're onto a winner, right? They don't need to tell us that much.
I mean, this trailer is basically the equivalent of the actual Breath of the Wild trailer, right? Because this one had voices in it as well.
Yeah.
Presumably Ganondorf's voice.
Yeah.
Even though I don't think that sounds like Ganondorf in the slightest, but whatever. The voice acting in Breath of the Wild was not super great either, so,
I don't mind.
No, I turn it immediately to Japanese. Sorry, with subtitles.
I've never minded it.
No,
It's got its own weird charm. It is weird.
Yes.
But I kind of like that it's odd.
I thought it was fine too, but apart from this Ganondorf voice, unless that's not Ganondorf, big twist.
I mean,
It's like some commander in Ganondorf's
Ganon,
army.
Blood moon rises once again. Be careful, Link. Nope. Turn that off.
I mean,
We always skip that sequence, so never hear that anyway.
Well, yeah.
I think I may have found the voices more. I think they perhaps worked better in Hyrule Warriors, of all things. Like even Zelda's voice worked better in Hyrule Warriors.
I'm sure. I mean, they had more to say in Hyrule Warriors for a start.
True. I don't know. I mean, let's talk about the other part of this. Like the game's going to be great. Let's. It's not. I mean, some level of great.
Yeah, clearly.
The sort of, I guess, stinger to bring it down a little bit. This is Nintendo's first step into the $70 game range. At least in America, we know that much, that it's going to launch at $70 rather than the usual $60.
Right.
So they are, they're saying, hey, Sony, hey, Microsoft, we want in on this. Even though Microsoft have been less keen on doing the $70 mark, like Sony have definitely been like, yeah, we want to do this. But Ninty are now wading in. They have at least stated that this isn't going to be the norm for all releases moving on. They're probably going to save this $70 tag for their prestige titles.
Yeah,
probably. But this is Nintendo we're talking about. The Ninty tax and all that stuff will apply. So, it'll never go down in price from this higher price.
No.
Which is kind of a bummer.
If it's anything like the previous game, then this one, that is still ludicrous value. But it's just whether they apply that to other games is the more of a problem.
Yeah, and what is that? What is this prestige title that they like? Is Pikmin 4 going to also have this
That's
tag?
more of a worry.
They've already had the price on that, I think. You can pre-order it.
Okay.
I think I saw the English price of Tears of the Kingdom as well. I don't remember what it was.
Okay, yeah, I've not looked it up, but
I looked on. I tried to look on Amazon as soon as that went up because I was like, you remember when previously I said it wasn't on Amazon to pre-order because they hadn't announced. I kind of forgot that Nintendo actually announced when pre-orders are available. So of course it wouldn't have been. But when I went and looked, even after they'd announced the pre-order, Amazon still hadn't updated their page. I was like, at this point, can't see what Amazon are guessing the price will be. Well, I'm sure it's not much of a guess any longer.
No,
I'm sure they get told.
But it's fairly fixed. Yeah. So anyway, that's the slight stinger, to which people are obviously a little bit put off by, because it's like, yeah, but you're still running it on the Switch, guys. That whole argument is coming back. So it's like, it may be great. It may be great, but it's like it's on the Switch.
I mean, the other speculation was that it's a price based purely on the fact that the cart is huge. Like if they had to make an even bigger cartridge to fit as much data as they're going to put in.
Maybe, yeah.
But that's not really an argument, really.
That's the classic argument, freaking Conker's Bad Fur Day or something.
Or why a lot of third-party N64 games didn't have a save chip in them.
Yeah,
to save cost,
to save money. They can't. Yeah.
Or why EA's Mega Drive games were always in a different bloody cartridge shape because they didn't want to pay the licensing.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think it's fine. I mean, it's easy for me to say, but then I just think there's less, but higher quality, I don't know, bigger games these days.
Nintendo's output has been not as frequent as it has been historically. They've slowed down a lot, I would say.
Pretty much everyone has. Who's sped up apart from indie games? Then
I don't know. I still think Sony are kicking out their prestige titles at a fair old rate.
Relatively.
Yeah. I mean, Microsoft definitely aren't. Microsoft don't have that anymore, really.
What have Sony got coming then?
I mean, Spider-Man 2 is the biggie, right?
Yeah, I guess, Yeah.
But other than that, most of their stuff's already out at this point, and we need some more announcements. So, this year could be interesting. I mean, there's some scuttlebutt that I think they might be doing a sequel to Ghost of Tsushima.
Right, but that wasn't that well received in comparison to...
I think it sold pretty well.
Yeah, okay.
And, that's what drives these things.
Yeah.
Generally.
Yeah. If that reused the world, then that would be more of a problem, because that was the thing about that game. Really, was the beauty of the world. The actual game was a bit thin, I think, compared to the map and the stuff.
Just a bit more Assassin's Creedy than I think people were expecting, but
yeah,
a bit too open world. Perhaps they shouldn't have gone that route. I don't know. Anyway, that's the news. That's what I got. Unless anything else has happened, but quite a lot going on.
Let me just look at the list and see if there was anything else in that Nintendo show that Rob might have missed for some reason. I don't think so.
I mean, there was a lot of
there was a lot of other crap.
I think there was at least one farm game or game that had a farming element.
Yeah, it had a farming element. I would have said it was a farm game.
Yeah,
it's more of an Animal Crossing.
I mean, there's the Danganronpa developers' new game. Was it Rain Code coming? Some sort of AI detective game.
Yep.
Japanesey stuff. Octopath Traveler 2 got a mention.
A very brief mention. But that's basically out.
Yeah, I mean,
in fact, there's a demo, which is what they mentioned.
Yeah.
All right. Which reminds me, the news of the week for me is that Zach fucking outbid me on the stupid Hogwarts game.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, you both went in on it. Oh,
yeah, because I got a feeling that it was going to do well. And
That's why I bid on it as well.
Yeah.
So
I was kind of surprised it was still available at that point because I thought it might have already come out.
Yeah,
because
I
was
me
hearing
too.
people talking about it, and I was like,
Yeah,
that usually
exactly.
means it's out.
So I've got. I guess all of this has popped off in the week where I've been a little bit distracted.
A little bit.
A little bit.
So like, what's the deal with Hogwarts? Is it reviewed well?
Yeah.
Then?
It has, yeah. It got 85.
Wow. Okay, so I guess
15 points to Zach.
I guess the bit I was a bit confused about was whether or not reviewers were actually going to have a hard time looking at it because of the whole controversy.
Yeah,
thing.
I mean that was the risk.
So I guess the argument is like, are the people reviewing it the people that can be objective or don't care about the controversy? Like,
Yeah,
if,
I think you can put it aside, can't you? I don't know.
I mean, it depends on that's the whole thing, isn't it? It depends on you as a person and where you're.
Yeah. I don't know what they've done. What is the deal? Does money from this actually go to JK?
Yeah, of course it does, because J.K. Rowling still gets.
Yeah, I guess it does. Yeah.
What's the word? Royalties for the Wizarding World IP.
Yeah, but I mean, she gets enough money from everyone all the time anyway, so people still buy the books all the time. I looked on because my friend amazingly got her fantasy novel published, which is great, and she was like number one on the Sunday Times bestseller list.
Wow.
on the publishing week. But I was trying to confirm that, because if you go on the Sunday Times website, it's paywalled, so I couldn't see it. So I was like, I'll go on the Amazon charts and see what's on the Amazon charts. And funnily enough, if you go on Amazon best-selling books charts, it's all 5 top best-selling books are all Harry Potter. Even right now.
I mean, we are coming up to the 20th anniversary of Harry Potter, right? As well. Like, I think the films. I think we're coming up to the 20th anniversary of the first film being released. So there's like they're doing some sort of. Are they doing like a Friends reunion? Is that what I saw?
They've already done it. Yes.
Oh, that already happened. Okay.
Anyway, yeah, a shout out to Hannah. It's called God Killer. If you want to read that, it looks really, really good.
Not to put it down at all. I'm really sorry, but that just suddenly immediately triggered Godfall in my mind. You know, that Gearbox game, and it's like I don't want to think about Godfall.
No, it's not Godfall. God Killer.
Not God Hand either.
Not God Hand. No. Is that the next? Is this the next Imperial big base name? We've had Starkiller, now it's God Killer.
Probably.
Now, what was okay? Star Wars lore check. What was the actual? I mean, it was Starkiller again in the actual extended universe, wasn't it? It was just Starkiller was a different thing.
Starkiller base.
No, Starkiller it was basically a fighter ship, but it could just shoot an entire star in the original extended universe.
Oh, in the old extended universe, was that called Starkiller?
I think it was still called Starkiller.
Okay. That was stupid.
Yep.
They were like in the extended universe back in the day, like 90s, 2000s. There was, what can we come up with that's like scarier than the Death Star, which they failed at pretty much. But there was like one thing was like a giant planet muncher thing.
Yeah, the World
Eaters. Take ages, the World Eater. But it would then it would actually convert the planet's mass into actual resources. So it was scary because it could build armies out of planets instead of blowing them up. But the other one was like, it was basically the ship from 2009 Star Trek, right? Except the opposite.
Oh, well, like
right?
the red matter bomb.
The red matter bomb ship.
Right.
Yeah, except it blew up stars. And I'm sure it was called Sun Killer.
Oh, yeah, it might have been Sun Killer,
Yeah.
not Star Killer.
Anyway,
Yeah, maybe.
same thing. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it would fire a
killer.
So not
rocket
God
into
Killer.
a sun and blow up the whole system instead of just a planet. Yeah.
I'm acutely aware that we're running out of time pretty quickly on this podcast.
And we haven't talked about what we've been playing.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So
Get going.
I think I should let me crank out what I've been doing while I can remember them.
Okay.
While my sleep deprived brain is still on form. Yakuza 5. Let's talk about it. I'm doing
Still.
I'm doing chapter 3 on it, which, as it turns out, was Haruka's part of the story.
Right. Dance battles.
Dance battles. Yeah, dance battles are a thing. It's one of those things that the Yakuza series often does, where it's like they are surprisingly competently implemented. Like it's only a little rhythm game, but it's the way you level Haruka up. Like you just challenge people on the street and you have a little rhythm game off. They're really easy. That's sort of the problem. They're really easy, and they're not that challenging, and it's very easy. You end up doing a lot of as well implemented as it. It's too much repetition.
Right.
It's because it's a rhythm game now, and that's the sort of the problem with rhythm games. It's like doing the same easy track over and over again isn't necessarily compelling. So it's outstaying its welcome a bit, because there's the dance battles, but there's also like just a straight up performance rhythm game, because Haruka's in the Idol Princess League to try and earn the rights to fame and fortune. And as part of that, there are literally 3 songs that part of the game uses. And they're sort of eked out over the course of the chapter. So at first, you're really only playing this one song over and over and over again, and it outstays its welcome far too long. And it is a shame, because it's like I can see what they're doing here. They're adding this curveball in the middle of the story to mix it up, and as a result, it's had the opposite effect. I'm tired of it. Fortunately, they throw Akiyama into the picture as part of this chapter as well, halfway through. So you end up with a bit of a balance between doing some dance stuff and then just kicking people in the face, and as Akiyama. So it's it becomes less of a problem later on in the chapter. But hey, curveball. It's doing its thing. Also, though, I don't see how this story really relates to anything else that's going on yet.
It's a full side story.
Yeah, it definitely will. The shady police detective man has turned up, who's been in the other 2 stories.
Right.
So it will come together in some way, and I'm nearly at the end of this chapter, because I must be if he's turned up. So we'll see. I reckon I've still got 2 more parts at least after that to go. As I approach the 40-hour mark. Let's talk about Hi-Fi Rush. That's the most interesting thing.
Yes.
Man, this game rules. So yeah, its trick is character action combat, but to the beat. And what that means is when you're eking out combos, you can just mash. You can do that, but if you want to get maximum performance, maximum points, and maximum damage, you want to be pressing your attack buttons in time with the music and in time with the background beat. So I don't know, if you want to launch someone in the air, you have to do light, then wait for a beat, and then a few more light attacks, and then that will trigger your launcher attack. And then once you're in the air, you've got a couple of air combos you can do, and there's an assist system where you can pull the trigger and pull in things to help, and they all will deal with the situation depending on how you time it and how the rhythm comes in. And it's really clever in that respect. Like parrying, it gets introduced relatively late on, so you can, if something is attacking you and you notice their attack is coming and you push B at exactly the right moment, you'll block the attack and stun them a little bit. It's just, and you get a rhythmic dodge that gets more effective if you do it in time as well. And it works surprisingly well. It's a little overwhelming, because you're not just having to deal with character, which character action can be a bit of a mess at the best of the time, right? Like if you're getting swarmed by people and there's stuff popping off and there's attacks coming at you from multiple directions, but now you're trying to manage all of that in rhythm, can be a little much.
Yeah.
But I think it pulls it off. It's like I guess my biggest I mean, I'm Rob review. Like I do, like I really do like this thing. I think the animation is great. The writing has been great. Gnome pointed out that it has that sort of potential writing pitfall of being cocky, sarcastic, teenagery.
Yep.
But they do it well here. It's not that sort of ultra millennial, crappy teenage writing. It's like, it feels like good cartoon writing, and it really works here. Like, okay, the main character Chai is a bit too much of a cocky idiot for my tastes, but it's funny in spots, and it's stupid, but in all the right ways. And I especially like the robots in this thing. I especially like how they chat to each other, and the mysterious Irish maintenance robot that you keep finding just around the way. Like, why is he Irish? All right, fine. So Some of the accents are a bit strange, though. I can't quite place a couple of the accents. They're a bit odd, but apart from the Irish guy is fine. Yeah, it's just got this really nice vibe to it as well. Like it's all, the music is all like fairly upbeat and like indie guitar style.
Indie guitar, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, but that's the style that it uses.
Yeah,
rather not like dance music.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So let's sort of lean into some of my nitpicks about it, because I think I am pretty up on this. I think it is good, but so all of these are pretty minor things. The problem with that approach is that the indie guitar things, that they don't really stray from it that much, and as a result, most of the game ends up feeling and sounding pretty samey, which is potentially a problem for a rhythm game, right? You do want that occasional mix of tone. Well,
I mean, not just tone, but like rhythm as well, because that was the problem with the Zelda, with Cadence of Hyrule, where everything was the same tempo the whole game, and then that kind of degrades the rhythm part of it.
The tempo does change a little bit here, not hugely. So there is a training room you can access at a certain point in the game, and there is and it has its own music that's playing while you're in there. But there's just straight up a toggle in the training options to be like, do you want slow speed or fast speed? And it switches to a different song,
right?
So you can practice the higher tempo combat. And I think they mix it up for some of the boss battles and things where they'll switch the tempo, but it doesn't dynamically change, right? Because that would just make it even harder.
Right, yeah.
It's always just like doosh, 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 stick to it. They mess with it a little bit. So some of the enemies have like this like super attack they do, and they basically force you to parry, like a call and response parry system. So you have to note like what the rhythm of what's being played to you is as the guy like warms up for his attacks. And those can be a little more inventive than the like standard doosh doosh doosh. There'll be like a da dan dan da 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 kind of attack coming in, and it's like, okay, great, da da da. I'll play it back, and if you perfect that, then you gain a huge advantage. I find the timing of those sections a little bit finicky, because it's like it doesn't. It will do the call, and then there'll be a couple of shrinking circles that indicate when you need to do your response. And sometimes those don't feel 100% nice. I don't know. There's just something off about them. I'm sure I'll get used to them eventually, but I'm finding that the hardest part of the game almost.
Right. Yeah.
But so yeah, they generally stick to that. So the vibe is almost too similar. Like, it's great that it opens with it's not part of the gameplay, but it opens with some black keys, which is great. Inspired choice. There's some 9-inch nails in the first damn boss fight, which is rad. Nice. Again, so yeah, nitpicky side. First 2 levels, they both end in pretty fun boss fights. Past that point, I haven't really encountered a proper boss fight, and I'm like quite a long way into the game at this point, which is a bit of a shame, because it's like these culminations to the levels were feeling pretty good, and then they just sort of decided to step back from that for some reason. There are some unique sections. Don't get me wrong. As you play through the game, there's some levels that are like have a sort of gimmick to them, and those are great as well. But I kind of want to go back to these big set piece boss fights with like the licensed music behind them, and with all the attacks being timed to things. Like in that 9-inch nails fight, for instance, there's a specific like laser attack this giant robot does against you that follows the guitar riff,
cool.
and like amplifies that particular riff while it's doing the attack, and it is cool as hell.
Nice.
And yeah, when it's firing like that, this game is fantastic. It does suffer from what I think is one of Bayonetta 3's biggest problems. Like, not performance, because it runs great on an Xbox. Like,
you'd hope so.
Yeah, I've got nothing to fault the look and feel of the aesthetic of this game, but like when it has that problem where like there is almost too much environment in between fights. Because it does the thing where I don't feel like I've got a perfect handle on the combat yet, which is great because it means I want to do it more and learn it. But in the same breath, it means I don't feel like there's enough fights coming for me to really feel competent at it before it throws something new in.
Right.
And it seems more happy just to have extended periods of, look at our world, isn't it lovely and pretty? And like you can go exploring and find secrets and stuff in it. and I'm like, can I have another fight, please? I'd quite like to just fight some dudes for a while. Which is something you can't really do. And the training room doesn't let you do that either. The training room only lets you like fight a single guy at a time. And it's like, no, I want a big battle to like really hone my skills and get a little bit more confident in this before you start throwing even more stuff at me. I think a lot of modern character action games do that, and it's a bit frustrating.
Can you replay fights because they're scored?
No, not yet.
So you have to. It's likely to be replay the whole game and just compare your scores then, not like replay individual parts.
I have read, because I really wanted to go back and replay some of those early levels. I've read that you basically have to go through the whole game and then it unlocks the replay capabilities, so you can go back to previous levels and redo them, which is fine because which is also interesting because there is some stuff you absolutely cannot do. Right. The first time through, there's like these fire gates you'll encounter, and it's like, I've got no way of getting through that. Or there's these mysterious doors. The mysterious doors are great because there's dialogue behind them. So if you're finding them on your first playthrough, like Chai will just call them out and be like, has anyone figured out what this thing is yet? And the characters like sort of just shrug at you and talk about it for a bit, and it's like that's actually really smart. It's like they're just like, this is a secret, but we're going to make it really obvious that it's a secret and you can't use it yet. It's pretty cool. Yeah, and I have to say, I think those environmental bits are a bit too long though, because it's like they're just, I want another fight. There's ample space here. You could have thrown in another fight, and I'd have been pretty happy with having another fight. Because your fighting is pretty good. It's pretty good. I mean, you fight with a guitar made of random crap that his arm magnetizes to him, so it's nice. This game's rad. Don't skip it. Like, honestly, just play it. You're gonna have a great time. What an amazing surprise for February or January, I suppose, when the developer direct was.
Yeah. Hi-Fi Rush, baby.
Hi-Fi Rush, yeah. So I'm going to very briefly touch on the final thing, which I want to say is like I've had a go at Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes.
Right. Yeah.
That game's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's one of those things that you can only really do once, I guess. Like anyone else trying to do the same thing, it's just like, I mean, I guess well, no, I was going to say it depends on what you do, like mechanically, but I think they've covered most of the obvious mechanics.
I don't know
environment.
And it's also a thing that like you can go back to with the so one session's not enough to master this. Well, yes, so you can go back to with the same group of people and play it multiple times. We were doing it, so we were taking it in turns in VR. So one person would wear.
So you're always going to be crap. That's the important thing.
Yeah. I mean, you do get used to it. I was picking up on a couple of things. I did notice, like on the second time you attempted a certain module, for instance, you'd know how to explain it in a way that the other players then knew what you were talking about. Especially,
and that obviously having everyone do it also helps in that aspect, because then everyone experiences. I mean, everyone can see. Well, no, it just depends how you're playing it, but not necessarily everyone can see it. Depending on how you have it.
So we were doing it totally blind.
Oh, you were doing it the real way.
The real way, yeah.
So only the person in VR can see it. So in that case, everyone having a go on that would help, because then everyone can see what you actually are saying.
Like. Yeah. So by default, the VR version of Keep Talking Nobody Explodes will only display what's going on in the headset.
Right.
Unlike a lot of PC games which just have what's going on duplicated on a monitor, this doesn't do. This actually just puts a big old screen up saying, "Hey, the other guys shouldn't be looking at this. You should be looking at the manual."
Right.
So yeah, I haven't really explained what this is for those that don't know. It's an asynchronous co-op multiplayer experience where one person is in VR trying to stop a bomb from exploding, but there's these cryptic modules all over it, and the other players basically have the manual to try and help you. The other players are called the experts. Like the experts have the guide to help you defuse this thing in time, and it's it's not a concept that's not been done before. Like I think was it Jackbox had a pretty good bomb defusal game in it, one of the early ones.
That came out after that though.
Oh really?
I think it might have done.
Okay.
I think that might have been after Keep Talking Nobody Explodes originally came out.
Okay, that might be true because this VR version obviously came later.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good fun. It's good fun. Good sort of easy.
Well, and
it's an easy party game so you can use your VR headset like in a social sense.
A useful way to use VR in a way that makes the VR matter.
Yeah.
And it's not just like a game that is in VR. It's a game that is helpfully suitable for VR.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I mean, you could play it without the VR, obviously, but
you can just use it on. You can just do it on a PC, but then it works best if the other players can't see what you're doing.
well, I mean, you could still set that up. Just
Yeah.
point your monitors this way and have everyone else over there.
Sure, it can be done. But yeah, it's neat because you're picking up the bomb, and like some of the rules depend on the things that are written on the bomb or various things that you can see on. Like, has this got one of the funniest moments was like trying to explain to someone that there was a rule that was just like, if your bomb has a parallel port on it,
You have to explain what a parallel port is.
Yeah, I was trying to explain like, okay, parallel. It's the really long one with 2 rows of pins,
Right.
And then they described like, oh no, I think I've got one of those. There's like, no, that's a DVI port.
Oh God.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. We lost that one. And some of the modules, like as it eases you into new modules, as you go through the challenges. But some of the ones are pretty complex and pretty hard to do fast. So like there will be a skill to learning how those, just getting your mind in the right space to figure out these modules quickly. It's going to take some learning to do that. Although I watched like people speedrun this on AGT. It's like,
Well, but is that memorization more than?
Yeah,
So
it's 100% like memorizing the rules, but
Yeah, but it's not even necessarily memorizing the rules as much as memorizing like what the solutions are almost. Because there's only going to be on some of those modules, there's only going to be a certain set of possible outcomes.
Sure, like the easy wire module, for instance, it's almost always cut the 4th wire. Anyway, it's pretty cool. And I think I'll stop my section here.
Cool. Some good games going on.
Oh, wait.
Considering.
I started playing. I needed something to do in the hospital at various stages, so I was playing Kirby's Adventure. I think it is the NES one, available on NSO on the Switch Online thing.
What made you
mean the original?
Start that?
I don't think Kirby's Dream Land was the original was on Game Boy.
Game Boy.
I think
Is
Kirby's,
that 2? No, it can't be 2.
I don't know which one in the sequence it is, but I knew it was one of the early ones, and a bit of me was like, I don't know that I've played a Kirby game.
Right, yes.
I've watched Zach play plenty of them, but like back in the day, when Game Boy emulation became an early thing and we were doing that.
Yeah.
I thought I'd have a go, and it's like, it's okay, I guess.
I mean, that is basically how Kirby is.
Yeah, I find the control weirdly laggy and awkward at times, especially on this NES version. I don't know if that's just a quirk of the emulation or if the original was like it. Which surprised me for a Sakurai game, right? And how much care he takes, especially these days, in terms of control. It just doesn't feel as responsive as I was expecting. It's fine. I'm not hating it.
Why didn't you pick the Game Boy game then?
Because it's not available on
It's
NSO
not.
yet at the time.
And you'd already played the SNES one.
I've briefly played the SNES one. Was it the multi-weird one?
Weird multi-pack thing.
Not
that does have a regular Kirby game in there as well.
There's like 2, isn't there? There's like some other regular Kirby game on SNES as well. So I've only briefly touched that, and there's the structure of that confuses me.
Yes, it's weird.
So I thought I'd try a more traditional one. Anyway, I've now played a Kirby game, not all the way through, but some distance through.
I mean, it presumably isn't the one that I'm thinking of, because you probably would have noticed if you had the other animal dudes.
Oh, it's not got Kai or
Ku, Kain, and Rick.
Yeah, that's it. Ku, Kain, and Rick. Yeah, it's not got them.
I don't know what one that is. I always think of that as being
must be one of the
2,
Game Boy
but
ones,
it might have been like subtitled 2.
That must be one of the Game Boy ones, right?
I think, probably. Maybe Game Boy Color Age.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Kain. Take it away, Zach.
So what have you been playing?
Well, I mean, I've been playing a lot of the normal things, but also I guess what I actually need to talk about briefly was like a couple of weeks ago they were doing I think this week it's been another Next Fest thing.
Oh, yeah.
Where they just do a bunch of streams and demos and whatnot. But weirdly, like the week before that, they did a city builder specific demo run where like a bunch of random I say city builder, like base building, I think was what the term was.
Okay.
A bunch of random base building games got basically uploaded their demos at the same time. So it was like a Next Fest, but just for base building games.
Interesting. Okay.
So naturally, that meant I went to play a shit ton of load demos. I must have played like 9 different demos.
Nice.
But I don't think I need to talk about most. It's like this market's maybe getting a bit overcrowded, I guess, in the indie space.
Does this overlap with like factory games to some extent?
Yes,
or?
I mean that is the base building tag seems to cover enough of that
right.
to trail into the factory genre. And I think the weirdest thing was like, I think it was slightly before this base building demo fest, the demo of SteamWorld Build came out, which would have fit in that category, but I think that happened like very slightly before this thing for some reason.
SteamWorld Build. Did we know this was coming?
Not really. I mean, I don't remember if they said, because obviously in between the last SteamWorld game they did the Gunk.
Oh yes, of course, same developer. Yeah.
And I don't know if we knew that they were working on another SteamWorld themed game since then.
I just remember it turning up on my Twitter, someone talking about it, and I'm like, wait, what? They made a SteamWorld game? Like,
well, yes, they have been doing that occasionally.
Yeah, I know, but there was just no build up.
Yeah, so I mean, it's still only a demo or whatever at this point. It's not nearly. I don't know if they said that it's going early access or not, but yeah, they uploaded this demo, and it's basically it's combining. On the surface of the map, I guess, you're building a town in a sort of a old school style city building thing where like buildings have zones of influence, and then if you're inside the zone, it satisfies the need of that building or whatever. And then the buildings can tier up if they're covered by enough different needs and that kind of thing. So it's using that system. But then because this is a SteamWorld game, you go into the mines underneath the town. And in that layer, it's basically Dungeon Keeper. You're building little like layers, but they're for like specific different types of worker bots, like miners and archaeologists or whatever.
There better be a narrator.
No, unfortunately not.
No.
Well, I mean, there are voices, I guess, not like the Dungeon Keeper style though.
There's no. The dungeon is on a slot.
No, you can't worry about micro piglets. But yeah, it's doing this weird combination of like the city builder on top of the Dungeon Keeper thing underneath. But I from the demo at least, I was like, I'm getting the feeling it's like it's going to do that thing where it's not going to commit hard enough to either of these, and they're both going to be kind of generic and simple. But I mean, that's not necessarily unsurprising from the SteamWorld series of games in general. Like they're not normally super amazingly revolutionary or anything.
They're just good at what they do.
Yeah, they're just like solid indie-ish games. I don't know how big that studio actually is.
Oh, I don't know. Presumably they had to staff up to produce something like the Gun.
Yeah, you would think so. So yeah, and slightly ridiculously, it's the same goddamn story again. I feel like they maybe used that same story slightly too many times at this point. And like
someone's gone missing and they're trying to find it, but we're building a town this time to do it.
No, it's the you're these steam robots on this planet which is going to explode shortly because of the ancient human world where they fucked up the environment or whatever, and there's an AI deep underground, and then the world explodes. It's like that's basically the story of
that's plot of the first two games.
Yeah, that is the part of the first two games.
Oh, wow, okay.
You go into the mines. Basically, when you go into the mines, you go down a certain depth and you reach the ancient human cities where it's all full of radiation and shit. And then below that, you get down far enough, you reach the AI where it's like, this is what the humans were fighting that fucked up their world. And then the planet explodes. And then, so they've reused that in SteamWorld Dig 1 and 2. And then, technically, the, what was it called? SteamWorld Heist, the 2D side-scrolling, not side-scrolling, side-on shooter thing, tactical shooter thing. Yeah. That's actually the one game where it takes place after the planet has exploded. Like, it's the continuation of that story. Now you're in space.
So these are... But SteamWorld Dig 1 and 2 can't be parallel stories, right?
No, they do follow on from each other. So, I believe in the end of SeaWorld 1, I don't really remember it that well, but I think the planet doesn't actually explode. It's like there's earthquakes and shit, but I don't think the planet actually explodes at the end of SeaWorld 1. And then they sort of retcon it into SeaWorld 2, where it's like the guy from SeaWorld 1 goes missing, and then you have to go and find him to find out what's going on, and then the planet explodes. But yeah,
I feel happy tale all around.
Yes, but I feel like, you know, once they'd done SeaWorld Heist, I thought that was the idea, right? They were going to continue this story, but now we've just gone back to the planet exploding again.
So this is happening
presumably parallel to the first two games.
So yeah,
it's another
somewhere else on the planet. These guys are discovering what's going on.
Yeah, discovering the same things by the looks of it.
I mean, sure.
I mean, yeah, it's fine. But it doesn't really matter. But you know, they could have continued the story. In fact, like I think the end of SteamWorld Heist implies. The end of SteamWorld Dig 2 sort of literally is a transition to SteamWorld Heist. Like they show how you're going to live in space and how that's going to go with like the fragments of the planet or whatever.
Okay.
And then at the end of SteamWorld Heist, they do kind of actually loop it back into the same story where you discover the AI again. Except now it's in bits of planet in space. So it's like it's all basically the same story, I guess.
Could Build have just been like, oh, we just decided, you know, we've been in space for a while. We're going to
rebuild, build a space platform or something.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that would fit quite somewhere with the Dungeon Keeper.
Just pick another planet and they dig down and they find something else.
Yeah, maybe.
Or maybe the same AI has already rooted itself in this planet, and,
and then it'll explode again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. I just find that funny. Just like they seem to have this one story that they're just going to keep reusing.
I mean, if it works, I guess.
So what else from the demos? I need to actually look at my phone because I wrote down some of the names because there was a lot of them.
What stands out?
Well, okay, so I mean, I've only put 4 of them here. One of them was SteamWorld Build. Like this is already a trim list down from like the 9 that I played. I guess we don't really need to talk about it much, but I played one called Factoroids.
Factoroids.
Because you've got to fit the word factory in there somehow.
Yeah, you've got to factor it in there.
But yes, that's basically Factorio except on asteroids. So it's like it's a 3D map, but I mean it's cube based. So you're building mines and shit on the surface of the asteroid and mysteriously like I don't know magnetized belts or something, I guess, because the belts can like go around the corners of the asteroid.
Okay.
But yeah, that is just basically Factorio. I only wanted to bring that up because it was like people are running out of ideas for names, basically.
Yeah. A bit of my head was going, is it actually a math puzzle?
It's about factorization.
Yeah, in an asteroids theme.
Be a bit like Frog Fractions-y.
Yeah, yes. I mean, if it was another subversion game like maybe. This would be a good place to put it.
The one that I played the most, and is probably the most like interesting, I guess, was called Desynced, and it's sort of like it's a sort of midway between Factorio again. I mean, it has basically the same sort of world as Factorio, where there's aliens and they spawn a certain distance away from you. Except in this case, the aliens live on the high ground, basically. So as long as you don't go up there, you're fine.
Oh shit, are we Anakin?
Yeah, pretty much. You definitely don't have the high ground. But so that game's trick is that when you build, well, it's got 2 tricks. Like the factories are modular. So like when you build a building, it's basically like a blank slot, basically. And so the buildings can have different numbers of different sizes of slot. And then you slot different modules onto them depending on how big the module is. But then that also applies to like your actual units. So if you want to, you could theoretically have like a mobile refinery where you just slot the refinery module onto a unit that can carry it instead of the buildings. And then you can have multiple slots, and you can have special like internal slots that give them other effects. Like you can get like an internal slot for buildings that gives them teleportation, so they can transfer between each other without your units having to move things around.
I bet we thought the building could just teleport.
No, that would be cool too. Actually make it slightly easier to readjust your base if you could do that. Just slot the teleportation module in and move the whole building around.
Or maybe you put like StarCraft style boosters on the bottom of buildings so they can float around.
Yeah. But then the other part of this, which is the other game that this is Factorio and it's basically like Autonauts. It's got the programming aspect where like your units have once you get the AI chip or whatever you can put into the internal slots of your units, then you can write a simple programming language thing to tell them what to do. So it's got that aspect like Autonauts had, except it's actually a bit more complicated. But in being more complicated, it's also a bit more like unexplained. Well, I mean, there's early access or demo or whatever, so it's obviously not
Tutorial
done.
might be missing.
It needs a bit more work on tooltips, I guess, and such to actually tell you what's happening. Because when you get into the programming language options, it's like some of these are a bit too like, real programming, whereas it's like, what does that mean? What do you mean that you're searching for a thing? What sort of thing? So yeah, that was decent, but yeah, that does appear to be like Factorio crossed with Autonauts, basically.
Okay, yeah.
Doesn't seem to be anything particularly more interesting than that. It's got some kind of story about time travel, probably, as far as I can tell from the lore at the start of that.
I'm just gonna sidetrack for a moment.
Yeah.
What is it about this genre that makes it so full? Do you know what I mean? It feels like there's a lot of stuff in this. I mean, I bet there's other genres that have the similar problem.
Well, sure.
But we just hear about it.
You just hear about them from me, yes. Yeah.
But it doesn't all feel crowded at this point.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying about these demos. Is like some of the ones that I've played that I'm not talking about are just like, this is just enough. This is a bit too, not higher quality enough. Like
surely these games are quite difficult to make.
Yeah, you'd think so. Like you have.
Why is so many attempts?
Maybe it's the programming mindset is like, well, these are actually all just semi-solvable problems. If you see what I mean, there should be a straight logic to how these works.
Yeah, or maybe when you're programming the game anyway, it's like you can just implement the programming aspect of the game more easily because you're sort of already doing that.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like one of these like challenges that may perhaps a non-game focused developer can sort of look at and be like, I can figure out the rules for this.
Yeah.
You must have to write a shitload of unit tests to how the hell do you tell what the combinations of things that could cause bugs are ludicrous.
I mean, if games write unit tests generally, this might be the genre that needs them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you've got these internal programming languages, the game part of the game, I mean, obviously there's ways that, you just jip it where it's just like it just fails. It just breaks. You don't have to worry about errors exactly. You just have to make it not work if someone tries to do something that is going to break.
But that's challenging.
Well, that's true, I guess.
Try and identify.
And then the only other one that I want to talk about, only really briefly because it has a weird name. It's called I Am Future.
Okay, love it.
Which I believe, I thought you would. That's one of the reasons I brought it up, because I suspected Rob might like that name. I'm not entirely sure, but
I am Weasel.
From the concept of the game,
I am Baboon.
From the concept of the game, I feel like that's meant to be a reference to I Am Legend.
Okay,
I think, but I'm like, I don't know if it is. I mean, it's not nearly as dark as I Am Legend anyway. Right. But it is a apocalypse survival thing, I guess, where you're a lone survivor in a city, except it's flooded rather than filled with vampires. But yeah, you wake up out of your cryopod in this flooded city, and you do survival things, collect food and repair various items.
How's it presented? Is it like whenever I think survival, I immediately go, oh, it's going to be another one of those first person games.
No, it's like a isometric almost, like top down ish.
So more in the Don't Starve category than...
Yeah, kind of. Except it's just like... The main reason why it's not as dark is because it's literally not as dark. It's more like a, I don't know what you'd call that. It's like it's not cartoony, but it's like, I don't know, indie game.
Indie game.
Like generic kind of...
Not pixel art.
Pixel art, not full cartoon, but like, fairly brightly coloured and fairly cartoon-esque characters.
Okay. Not mobile game.
No.
Cartoon.
I mean, it could be verging on that, kind of, but yeah. I mean, it's not overly complicated. It does have a slightly interesting system of where, like, all the junk that's lying around on these building rooftops, all the, like, random old microwaves and whatever, random bits of sheet metal. Some of it you just disassemble in the world by using different tools that you find over time that attach to your robot arm, of course. But like, so most of the things that you can disassemble in the world have stages where it's like, here's a fence that's been put up on top of this roof, and like if you have this tool you can disassemble a bit of sheet metal off it, but then you need this other tool to be able to disassemble the metal poles, so you have like this multi-stage disassembling. And then for more like smaller items like a kettle or whatever, it has a little weird, not really a mini game, but it has like, here's the 3D model of a kettle, and then you have to go around and like turn it around and find all the screws and like actually take it apart to get all the individual parts out of it. And I think you can even like stop midway through, like you can just take it apart part way and get some of the stuff.
That would be like,
and then have this for later. I don't know.
And just take the whole thing with you.
Yeah, because you can still keep the whole item, but I think if you stop the disassembling process, you do get part of the resources, which is weird. But yeah, it's not a complicated game. Obviously, it has a fishing mini game. Because and weirdly, that seems to be like your main source of food. Like at the start, you're scavenging for like plants or whatever on the roof, and the plants give you seeds, and then you can build a farm plant, and you're like, okay, that must be how I'm going to make food, right?
Farming game.
Yeah, it's a farming game. You'd think that, but like the farming is massively inefficient compared to fishing. Like fishing just gives you way more food. You just have to play this mini game instead. And planting the plants takes like an entire day or whatever of in-game time, and has to be watered midway through that. And that in itself is inconvenient because you have to like, you go down the lift to the fishing dock basically at the water level, pick up the water, but it's salt water, so you have to take it back upstairs and then put it on the fire to desalinate it, and then your bucket has 3 charges, so if you're growing 3 plants that's fine, but if you're growing more than 3 plants then you have to empty the bucket, then go all the way back downstairs, and then get another bucket of water and then bring it all the way back up. And it's like, or you could just go downstairs and then just fish and then you just get food.
Right, yeah.
Like that's maybe not balanced very well.
But it's it's a good point, because if the fish is just less effort overall.
And also
for the same amount of food, or
for actually like more food.
Oh, okay.
And also the fish is like this weird tiered system where depending on what bait you use, you get better fish. But if you have no bait and you fish, one of the things you fish up is bait. So you can just like, can kind of automatically upgrade the chain just by doing some fishing to start with.
Yeah, okay. So your worm suddenly catches a prawn, and then you can use the prawn to get a crab.
If you have no bait, when you do your first fishing, you catch either junk, which is actually a kind of useful way to get infinite resources. But if you otherwise catch clams, and that counts as a bait, so then you can use the clams to catch actual fish.
You catch a clam with a rod? Is that a thing?
I don't know, I guess. You have to be very lucky.
Just using the clam to just go on your rod instead.
So yes, that's that. That's I Am Future.
I Am Future. I did note that actually something we missed from the Nintendo thing, that We Love Katamari is getting a remaster.
Yes, it is.
Which is, our preferred Katamari, the second one. The one that usually doesn't get a look in.
Oh, that's good.
I don't know if it's like it looked like the texture work had some
a little
stuff
bit,
done to it, but other than that, it didn't look like a lot had changed. And it's like, I bet he's wondering, is Namco doing this like they did Reroll? And launching on multiple platforms, or is it just Switch? Is it a weirdly Switch only thing?
Yeah, I guess that was kind of weird that they just brought that up in the Switch presentation.
Yeah, can't say that I've heard that anywhere else. But anyway, yeah, We Love Katamari. It's better than the original. It's probably the best one. It's probably the best one.
And speaking of names that Rob probably likes. This is not a game I've played, it's only a game I've seen, and I'm wondering if I should play now that I've looked at it a bit. A game called Pizza Tower.
Pizza Tower?
I'm sure that's all Rob needs to hear.
Go on.
It's hard to describe because I didn't get it at first, because the main thing that you notice if you look at it is the animation style. It's like, it's fucking nuts.
Okay.
It's trying to emulate a sort of a
I'm going to Google this right now.
Well, we can watch the trailer after this podcast. But it's trying to emulate, I guess, a sort of a 90s cartoon style, but not like in a cartoon style. It's still pixely. So it's got all these like exaggerated hot. What do you call those? The stupid faces that they do. There's a specific name.
It's got stupid faces as well.
Yes. Well, I'm leading up to the best part that Rob's going to like the most.
Is it Pizza Tower?
Pizza Tower. So the actual game is, I would say, it's like a cross between a Wario Land, like the concept of how Wario is invulnerable and he has these weird attacks. And then it's sort of crossed with Sonic almost.
Right.
Like you have to run through the level. So the way it works, I believe, is you play through the level in a sort of Wario Land style initially, inwards, and then when you hit a trigger at the end of the level, it then turns into a speed run to escape, but you play the level like backwards, but certain obstacles change on the way back, but then that becomes much faster because it's on like a time limit, so it turns into this mad dash.
Speed run out. But this looks insane.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's got like my immediate reaction was like some of the animation reminds me of. Do you remember Booger Man?
Yeah,
on the Mega Drive.
Kind of.
It's got a little bit of that 90s vibe, definitely.
And then the thing that I'm leading up to, which is the bit that Rob would like the most, is the big bad guy is just called Pizza Face. And it's literally just a face made like a pizza with a face on it.
It's Pizza the Hut.
Yep, Pizza Face. So yeah, I don't know.
What a crazy looking thing.
It looks mad. I believe there's actually a demo of it, so I might just play that at least.
Oh my god. Some of these boss characters as well. Okay. I see what they did. I see what they're doing in some of these. Yep. Okay. I'm not going to spoil it for those who want to go check it out, but yeah, they're on my level.
Nice.
So yes, that was just a weird thing that I saw, and I was like, I bet Rob would like this just from the concept, if not even the game.
Well, I mean, it looks crazy enough to keep you. It just looks.
Yeah, it does look. It looks.
It looks. Do they have your pizzas?
Possibly. Don't know what the actual story of that game is exactly. But
yeah,
pizzas are involved.
Is he fighting against pizza? In which case, we might have a problem here.
No, I think so
against the sanctity of pizza.
I think what I've gleamed from the bits of the intro I've seen is like
gleamed. Did you say gleamed?
Yes, gleamed.
It's gleamed. Isn't it? Anyway,
I believe he runs a pizza restaurant, but he's super in debt, and then a giant face made out of pizza threatens to blow up his restaurant with a laser from the pizza tower. So that's all I can tell.
This is how you solve debt in this world. You just laser things.
So there you go.
All right.
That's the end of this podcast, I guess, unless Dan has played anything he wants to talk about.
No, I think that's enough.
How do you top Pizza Tower?
Yeah,
exactly. You can't top Pizza Tower unless you put more pizza on top of it.
Pizza.
Tops out. Cool. Thank you for joining us on the first Wave of Baby podcast.
Hey, baby.
Wait for it. Stay tuned for more in the coming weeks. We also have a YouTube channel where we're currently playing Sonic Lost World for some reason, which is entertaining. So check out Happy Salad on YouTube, or you could just go to happysalad.net where our podcast lives, and you can find the videos there too. And I hope you enjoyed this podcast. We'll be back with another potentially in a couple of weeks.
I certainly enjoyed this podcast.
I'm sure.
Indeed. Hope you did too. Goodbye.